All right. So, hi,
Hey,
my name's. Go ahead. Go ahead. We didn't say who's going to go ahead first. Go first.
what's up? My name is Michelle.
Hi, my name's Alondra, and we're here to talk to. We'll talk about, right? Whatever we want. Okay, that was awkward, right?
It's all right. We're building the plane as we go. So, welcome to our podcast.
For sure. Um, so lots to talk about, lots to unpack. I know that you've been keeping up with the Johnny Depp case a little bit more than I have. And there was a lot of things said, right?
Yeah.
Whitney was on the stand. I believe Amber Heard might have finished her testimony this week. It was this week,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then um, her sister went on, and then a whole bunch of other people that I really didn't think. The
Some
whole bunch of other
depositions. Yeah.
people, I
The
don't really.
depositions. Yeah.
Yeah,
They didn't
I,
even come
nah,
testify in person.
no, it's just they were not obviously not as entertaining as Johnny's, right? And I don't think they brought anything to the table.
No.
I really don't. And to me, how should I put it? That what's the actress's name that testified?
Eve Barlow.
Was that her name? The actress, the one that used to date Johnny? Was
Yeah.
her name
Eve Barlow. Wait,
Eve? No, no, no. Her name was it Aaron? Aaron Barlow. Aaron, right?
I think it's Eve Barlow.
Even Aaron or Eve? It starts with an E, most definitely. I mean, I've seen her in a couple of things, but it's not some like if I saw her, I'd be like, oh, that's an actress, but I wouldn't be like, whoa, that's like Angelina Jolie or anything like that. So she's
Yeah.
known. She's just not one of those like, you know, super mega actresses. Like I don't know, like I haven't seen her on the red carpet. Like they even not even like red carpet. I think what maybe B movie? Do you think she'd be like a B actress?
She said she was in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
I don't remember much about that film. It's been a while since I've watched it. I'm sure it has some sort of cult following because Hunter Thompson has a cult following. But as far as me remembering who she was, who like if I see her, I know. But I think her name is Erin Bartle.
Yeah. I don't know. I just tried to Google her, but some other journalist girl named Eve Barlow came up.
Well, I don't think she brought anything to the table. But here's the thing: why are you going to be testifying for somebody that you dated? Like you dated him 20 years ago. Like how
Yeah.
is that even relevant, right? Like I mean, how old is Johnny now? He was in his 30s then. I don't even think he was dating Vanessa Paradis at the time. No, he wasn't. So why even like, oh, I wonder if she raised her hand and said, "Hey, I'll testify,"
There's
or
pictures of her and Amber and I think maybe Amber's sister together,
so
like
they're
hanging
buddies.
out. Yeah.
So they're buddies. So I guess maybe that's why she's like, "I'll do you a solid. We both dated Johnny. What do they call it? Coochie cousins?" I don't,
Ew.
I know, but really?
Yeah.
Really? She was married to him, and then the other one was like his lover that was is Johnny says, well, I think he said it was just like sexual.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on Whitney's testimony? I'm really curious on what you think about that.
I mean, she's a terrible witness for her sister. Um, she's very, I would say, not very credible for the jury. But they did lay the foundation with her to bring in Howell. Jennifer, is it Jennifer Howell?
Yes. Yes, her ex-employer. I don't know if she still works for her, but she worked for her at one point.
Right. So, news out today is that she will be getting called at least for deposition or in-person testimony for, um, what is it, at the end where they can bring in new witnesses.
You know, I have to say that Whitney's a lot more likable than Amber. Like
Likeable, yeah, but she's just not a
likable
not a
and
good
more
person to call.
personable. Yeah, no more personable. Would she lie for her sister? I mean, that I mean, there's this whole older sister, younger sister dynamic, and not to mention that I'm sure that she's taking care of Whitney financially, right? Obviously, because she was staying at Johnny Depp's
Yeah.
house. So there's probably a history. I mean, it's siblings. So will a sibling lie for another sibling? I'm not saying that's the case, but it's very possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, she's beat her ass too.
That's true. But I mean, yeah, it's true. She did. She
So, I
did. She was
mean,
like, yeah.
well, and I don't know if you noticed, but they asked her a question in the beginning of basically about like, I'm pretty sure it was her about not having harsh feelings towards either party or something like that. I know they asked
Oops.
Raquel, I think that. And Raquel was like, yeah, no, I don't have, basically any animosities toward either side. And Amber's face was like, what? Like,
You don't hate
so
me for draining the life out of you? I think that she would be a very difficult person to be friends with, like very needy, you know?
she's not
And
friends with any of those people anymore. They all
no, and
stopped talking after that.
yeah, after the whole situation, after it all kind of like spiraled out of control. One thing I did, that I did think is I just felt that there was too many people in the mix of their marriage. Aside from Amber being who Amber was, but
Yeah.
there was just too many people in the house. Like, how do you even have some sort of like marriage? Maybe because I'm kind of private, right? When it came to like
Well,
when it
he is
comes to
too,
my
though,
relation with,
right? Like,
but
he's always been.
that's true. But it's like she had everybody in there, like her sister, her friends. Like, when are you gonna have like husband wife time? When you have like so many people in the mix on your day to day. Granted, they lived in different penthouses, but to me, it just seemed like it was a house full of people, like a party house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think part of their relationship was, I think, to an extent that she enabled Johnny's using,
Yeah.
because she was
For
using
sure.
too.
Right.
So
He even asked her to get sober with him, and she said no.
she's in, which leads, now this is all in my head, right? This is like, no, I have no sources, but all in my head, just like life lessons, right? Typically, when it's really difficult for one person not to be using and one person to be using. Like, it's very difficult to be in a relationship like that. Typically, people who are both, it's easier for people who are both, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but 9 times out of 10, when somebody's heavily into drugs, the other person's heavily into drugs too. That's just the dynamic of the relationship. I wonder if part of the reason, I'm curious, that Vanessa might have left the relationship, because he had times of sobriety and times that he wasn't sober, was that she was just like, 14 years of this, I'm fed up.
Well, everybody's testified so far that's been close to Johnny. Like, even that guy that they just had testify, that was one of his old friends that's known him for 40 years, said that when Johnny does drugs, there's not really a difference in his demeanor and behavior, no matter what. So, honestly, my take on this would be is that when they got together, she started creating this really bad vibe, basically, that made his depression even worse. I mean, we all know Johnny's got a lot going on from depression and stuff like that, right? Like, and I think she just made it all that much worse, and he just wanted to mentally escape as much as he could.
And it's just so difficult to be in a relationship and not want to go home. Like, I can see that in him, where he was like, I don't want to go home.
Out of all the houses he has, right? Because he
Yeah,
knows he can't escape. If he's at one of them, she is going to show up.
yeah. And then she's just was gonna bring she brought the worst. She thrives on being in a combative, being constantly in a combative relationship.
Yeah.
The, unless she recognizes what's going on with her, she's gonna be like this for every relationship.
She
Like,
needs help. She
she
needs a
does.
lot of help. I feel bad for her to an extent right now, because it's like you can't understand the amount of trouble that you're putting yourself in right now with a 1-year-old child and you're an only parent.
Oh,
Lying under perjury under multiple courts,
yeah.
right? Under multiple courts. And that's a felony.
Yeah.
And like UK is looking at her right now for perjury.
Hmm.
Prior to that, I I had read that somebody else had opened up something with Australia. Australia's looking up for perjury, basically lying on their state documents and stuff.
She may not be able to go to those countries. I doubt in the United States they'll get her for that because some of the stuff hasn't really been like,
She's lied on the stand though with so many things that are
yeah,
proved, like you could prove, right? Like saying you've
yeah,
never touched a guitar and there's video of you playing a guitar.
yeah. But
Um,
I think
so,
they're so insignificant to the case that I don't see the attorneys going after that. They're like, that's irrelevant.
well, not
Um,
the attorneys. That's not an attorneys going after thing. That's the county, I think, or the state.
yeah. Well, it's in federal court, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go. Federal. Yeah, it is.
But I
Perjury
don't.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, but for that, I don't. It'd be rare for them to even waste their time for that.
I don't
Like
know. There's
honestly.
a lot of people right now who say if
Hmm.
she doesn't face some kind of consequence for the lies that she's told on the stand, they're going to be pissed.
So
And
you
I
really think
mean,
that it's going to be more about public outrage rather than what they would
and
normally do?
and it's not just about her, it's about setting a precedent that just because these people are famous, they cannot get off with lying on the stand in multiple courts. I've seen so many people on TikTok right now talking about it that women who were abused, they are pissed right now because of what she's doing with him and lying just blatantly on a stand. And people want justice for that too. Like in the means of the circle of the rich, right? Like they're pissed that somebody's doing this to somebody who seems to be a really good person at heart. Not that he's perfect, but for the most part, his entire life, people say he's always had good intention. Um, but yeah, I mean, just sitting there and lying on the stand and not being held accountable for it, not just for one lie or one small lie, right? But saying these really, really big, blatant lies.
Yeah. And I've got to figure out what court are they in? Are they in federal court?
They're just in, it's not criminal court, it's just civil
I should
in that
know
county.
this. Is it county? I have to look that up. I haven't really. Now I'm curious. Curious.
Is civil court federal or state? In Texas, there are 4 federal district courts, a state Supreme Court,
I think it
and
might be
civil and
state.
federal
What's
state.
the jurisdiction?
Virginia,
Ooh,
Fairfax, Virginia.
I don't know if it's in. It might be in state court. I gotta look that up. It's been a while. It's been a while.
In Virginia, there are 2 federal district courts, a state Supreme Court, a state court of appeals, and a trial court of general and limited jurisdictions. That does not tell me anything.
Yeah, it's a defamation case.
I don't know. I can't
I don't
specifically
know. I'd
find
have to do my
it.
research on that. I'm not.
Yeah, I gotta look
I
more.
haven't done that in a long time. I mean, I don't know if there's. I guess if there's a lot of public outrage, it may be brought up. Honestly, I highly doubt it. I mean, I think she's on the losing side of this case. To be honest, I think the
For sure.
biggest takeaway and I think the concern is if Johnny really did lose money because of Amber? Like, did he prove that he lost money because of the op-ed? And at the end of the day, that's what he's trying to prove if he's going to win the lawsuit. Now, the other thing is, I think this is more of him trying to clean up his reputation, because even, let's say he didn't prove it, right, and he lost the case, at the very least people got to hear his side of the story in depth, and not to say Johnny Depp, but in
Yeah.
depth, no pun intended. So that way that he comes out of there, marketable, and people aren't going to view him as someone who, you know, beat up their ex-wife, which he didn't, but that was the perception of him before that. You weren't sure. You were like,
Yeah.
what happened? You weren't. And now he really had the opportunity to talk about his side and how he was actually a victim of domestic violence.
Yep. 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 I can't
So
wait. I think we have this one last week, and everything has to be done by Friday.
it'll be
And then
done.
jury goes in for deliberation. So
We'll see how that ends. So we'll be next week, and then we'll talk about it. On the side of not domestic violence, but violence in general, I was listening to this. Oh, Michelle, you're offline.
am I?
Michelle, yeah, your camera's
Can you
off.
hear me?
I don't know if it's, yeah, I can hear you, but I don't know if it's going to be recording.
It still says it's recording.
Yeah, but is your face going to be on the recording?
It'll be okay. It should come back.
Okay. No wonder it's not on my end. So one of the things that I was scrolling to TikTok, and this is a program. It is I think it's a sports program. I can't remember what program it was, just to give it credit. But the question was asked, and I never really thought about it. Remember when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, the infamous slap? I think it
Yes.
was during the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
Okay, the infamous slap. And one of the questions was, do you think Jada Pickett Smith
Or the
loves Will
Oscars.
Smith? Yeah, Oscars. Yeah, isn't it the same thing?
I'm not sure.
Me neither. Well, let's keep it that. It's the it's a little gold man. It's a little gold man. So that little gold man, and he slapped him. And one of the questions that he posed to his co-host was, "Do you feel Jada Pickett Smith loved Will Smith or loves Will Smith?" And I had to pause and think about that, because I had never looked at, I always assumed that people who are married love each other. Like, that is like everybody's assumption, right? Like, you're obviously married, you've been married for a really long time, you probably love each other.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
maybe, to your point, maybe, because there's not a guarantee that that person is in love with you. And then when I think back on all the times she's kind of like never thought he was good enough, and I don't know if there was like this Willow Smith letter to Tupac. I mean, just bizarre, right? Because I think it is bizarre when, and this is all alleged, but when your daughter's writing these letters to Tupac, um
Yeah.
that has to come from the mom. So I'm just curious, does she love him? I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think she does love him?
I don't follow them really, but I mean, there's a video of Jada basically harassing Will, right? Like, just starts recording him, and he's like, don't just record me. Like, his image is pretty much, blah, 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 like how he shows up on socials and stuff. And she's just kind of berating him. And I almost feel like, again, personal opinion, I don't know if this is true, but I feel like Jada's kind of, I wouldn't say along the same line as Amber Heard, but I would say that she definitely has some kind of controlling, narcissistic ish kind of thing going on. I haven't seen a lot of
Verbal.
videos of them, but of that video that I saw, it
Mhm.
really displayed a side of him looking kind of betrayed in his own home, right? Like they clearly sound, they look and sound like they were probably having some kind of argument or something before she started recording. They both seem very irritated. Um, but she is recording after he's asked multiple times to stop recording and don't record him without saying or like asking. And she's just like kind of doing him like Amber did, like, oh, no, you're so, baby, basically like being a baby, kind of how she made it feel, and like whoever the lady at the red table is or whatever, like, come talk to us again. We need it, basically. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know. I mean, if somebody says don't record them and don't put them online, I mean, I feel like that's kind of,
How do
you know,
you feel about that?
don't do it.
Because you brought up a good point. Because I don't like, if I'm in a relationship with somebody, I don't like being recorded, especially if it's an argument or anything like that. Don't record me
Yeah,
unless you tell me that you're recording. I feel it's a betrayal. In my opinion, it's a betrayal. But some people don't think it's a betrayal. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Because I personally think if we're in a relationship, I don't want you recording me without my knowledge. I don't want you to take pictures. I don't want you to record me. I don't even want us
right.
to be recorded when an argument. That to me is a violation of me,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, and they don't have respect for you if they do after that point, right? Unless they're trying to prove something in court, right? I guess that's a little bit different. But if you're just having certain conversations like a spat with your partner, definitely, like, don't record me. I'm not going to record you. Don't record me. I don't think shit like that needs to be online or put on video. Again, unless you're trying to prove something in court because of something bigger going on. But not just, certain conversations where you're having with your partner.
I agree. I think in I always thought of being married as being one
Mhm.
person, right? And you wouldn't you wouldn't like anybody recording you. Like, you would have to ask your partner. It's like you guys are one. And so when they don't ask and they start recording you, I just think that's a huge violation of a relationship. And I really
For
don't
sure.
think things will get better after that. I
No.
don't think when somebody violates that privacy, it's not that person. You're right, to your point, that person doesn't respect you when somebody's recording you. And that's one of the things, aside from obviously what we're talking about, Will and Jada, and where she's berating him, but also kind of Amber Heard taking pictures of him sleeping and everywhere. I mean, back to
Yeah.
that point, I just really think that was,
That's
why
kind of
would you
weird.
do that?
Yeah.
In like the most horrible situation, unless you're going to sell them, right? At some point,
That
makes
video
them.
of her in that deposition was good though, where she's like, besides TMZ because they were alerted, and she's like, instead of grabbing her mouth and then she starts rubbing her face, like she admitted in her deposition that TMZ was notified.
She's just, I mean, she's, at the end of the day, she was a clout chaser. She was somebody who was looking for a come up. She, look what she did with Kevin Costner. She was, unfortunately, Johnny Depp just met the wrong woman. I will say
Yeah.
this though. I will say this. Johnny Depp going through his addiction, right? Nodding off and doing all of that. And one of the things, if he was in a relationship with someone who was quote unquote a good woman, right? Obviously probably wouldn't be in this situation. But do you think that they would have tolerated his behavior? Like going through his addictions, going through his pills,
Well,
you know?
I gotta say this, with all this stuff, I don't know how many drugs you've done in your day, but
Mhm.
I've done quite a bit when I was younger, and for the amount of stuff, and I mean, I've been around like, circuit parties where people are taking mass amounts of things.
Oh my, Michelle, I did not know that side of you.
Yes. Um, the amount of things that she says he takes, you are not going to be able to function. Like, you're not. Like 8X tabs or 8 MDMA tabs, you're, for one, especially for the grade that they're probably getting, because they got lots of money, right? They're not getting
Yeah,
some
for sure.
shit cut on the street. Like, they're getting some grade A. I've taken one before that made me forget my entire world was going on. Like, you're not functioning. If you take 8, you are almost dead, if not dead.
Oh wow. And
There
I'm
is
glad you're
no way.
and I'm glad you're because I've never done drugs in my life, so I really have no clue on, you're right, all the pills that he was taking and what those react how he would be reacting to everything that Johnny was taking. Like,
Right, because he's on um medications from his doctors.
mhm,
If he was drinking the liquor that she's saying, plus taking the oxy or
mhm,
roxy or whatever it was,
mhm.
those alone, I mean, you see she's like on the nod. They make you sleepy. He doesn't like the word blacked out, and you're not really blacked out like drunk, but you're also not waking up. Like,
Oh wow.
you're taking a good nap. Nobody's
So
waking you up.
so he's probably heavily sedated.
Yes, yes. Like that ice cream in his lap, to the point where he wasn't, it didn't wake him up, right? Like, he's out. And
Man.
what else? The liquor plus those, and then plus smoking marijuana. And I get, like, he does it often, he's got a high tolerance, but to the levels that she's saying, there's no way he fully beat her ass at all with all of that in their system. Have you ever been drunk?
No. No.
Oh, you've never been drunk?
No. No.
Go, like, and don't forget, Johnny's like blind in one eye.
I didn't know he was blind in one eye.
Yes. Yeah, he actually talks about that in his testimony, that he's technically blind in one eye.
Yeah, I probably didn't hear that part. I know I heard excerpts of it just because obviously, I didn't have the opportunity to listen to the whole thing, but I did not know his whole that he was blind in one eye.
Yeah, and he's accurately landing all of these blows while drunk, while on Roxy, while on other drugs, while on multiple things, plus his um, regular medications. There's no
Yeah.
way. Just even mixing the alcohol with Xanax, you're
Yeah.
fucked. You're fucked. You're not, you're sit down. You're done. Like, there's no way that you're beating somebody and dragging them across the house, up and down stairs, while also being similar in size, while also being blind pretty much in one eye, while your finger is cut off.
That yeah,
There's
that is
no way.
yeah,
There's no way. It's
there's
just
no
not
way.
possible.
So
It's not
I think
possible.
you think she's grossly exaggerating everything. So you think Amber's
It's
grossly
bullshit.
exaggerating everything.
Okay, well, she's got to be lying about something. You're either lying
Oh, for
about the
sure.
consumption of the amount of drugs that he took, or you're
Mhm.
lying about the abuse that was going on. And I feel that it's lying about both, or maybe not specifically lying about the drug, but gravely exaggerating the drugs, right? Like, maybe he was taking those things, but I don't think it was to the excess that she was saying, because everybody that he's known so far for years, right? His bodyguards who we've known for over 25 years,
Yeah,
um, the friend that's known him for over 40 years that testified, like,
for
all of the
sure.
people coming out have all said they've all witnessed Johnny take drugs. And when he does, he's not much different than who he is.
It's true. So
And
it's
he's
it's
been doing he's been doing them way before her. He's been doing them forever. And I think
For
there's
years.
an audio that we heard where she's like basically telling him to get sober or something, and he's like, "I've never been sober."
That's that's sad. Johnny has, and he did testify a little bit about his relationship, like his mother, but
Okay.
Johnny has never been well. And on top of that, I mean, um, he owned the Viper Room when was it
Courtney Love.
River Phoenix, when River Phoenix passed. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh,
Yeah, he was an owner of the Viper Room. So River Phoenix is Joaquin Phoenix's brother. He
yeah.
was in a couple of movies, and he died in front of the Viper Room. I don't know if it was in front of. I just remember that that was a huge deal that this young man OD'd in the Viper Room. So
Oh,
young, so talented. Um, he was. Have you seen the Keanu Reeves film My Own Private Idaho?
nuh-uh. I've not even heard of that.
So there's this movie, My Own Private Idaho. I'll watch it. It's pretty good. It's a little racy, but it's pretty good. Um, but he was in that, and this young man died and Johnny Depp was the owner of the Viper Room during that time. So I don't know if they were all friends, but I can see that impacting a group of people, that were all partying out together and were pretty much all of them were like young Hollywood. So they knew of each other.
Have
So
you
I
seen
so mhm, go ahead.
have you seen the video on TikTok that I just saw it, I think today or yesterday, and I think it's Courtney Love saying that Johnny Depp gave her CPR in the behind the Viper Room when she OD'd.
Oh, yes, I did see that. Yes, yes, you sent me that link. I did see that, and I was
Oh,
that was
okay.
very sweet of him. And then the other thing was he took she sent
Her daughter.
not a her daughter to go see Pirates of the Caribbean, which I think
Well,
her
so
daughter and go
she
ahead.
said that he would have limos pick her daughter up at school and stuff because I guess like CPS or social services was trying to investigate. And so Johnny basically had limos pick her daughter up from school to and from and stuff like that. And um, what else? Oh, took her to quite a few of the Pirates movie stuff and all kinds of things.
And I wonder if she's very similar in age to Lily Rose Depp. Like I think they're in their early 20s. I think
I don't know.
Courtney Love's daughter's in her 20s also. So I think they're contemporaries. So when the Pirates movies came out, they were fairly young. I always wondered because Courtney Love, she had CPS around her, but honestly, if she had been in another social economic level, would they have removed that child from her? And just because she was Courtney Love and had a little bit more
Yeah, if she was
leverage,
poor.
yeah, if she was poor, would they have taken
Well,
the
she
kid?
had the means, right? Like that's one of the biggest things I think they look at is do these people have the means? They have other people around them.
A support system, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, a support system of hired hands to take care of your kid. Now, when she did mention that, that was kind of like the first thing that came to my mind. Had she not been wealthy, would have they removed those children from her quicker? Had she not been wealthy and white, like that's another. You know what I'm thinking? Like
Yeah.
that's another thing. Had she not been wealthy and white, would have they removed those kids? Her daughter, Frances Bean is her name. Frances Bean.
Was that
Um,
her daughter?
yeah, her daughter's Frances Bean. Yes. So could have they removed her sooner? I mean, I don't know. Regardless, I thought it was very sweet of Johnny to do that and kind of take her into consideration. But
Yeah.
those folks were all partying together, and she OD'd, and Johnny Depp had to give her CPR. That's some crazy, insane stuff.
Yeah.
And she was like a mother. I mean, my heart goes out to her because obviously I think women who are addicted to drugs, it's definitely a disease. And so it's not like they don't love their kid. It's just that their
Yeah.
addiction is stronger than that bond of mother to child at that
Right.
time. And I mean, my heart goes out to women that have to go through that struggle, but I can't even like imagine. It must have been insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially I think it was like heroin, wasn't it?
You know what? I don't know what Courtney Love was specifically on. I know she was on a lot of stuff. I mean, she's said in various interviews that she
I
did do
think she
drugs. I
said
just
in
don't know
that
what she was
video.
on.
I think she
That it was
said it in
heroin?
that video. I think
Yeah,
it was.
I didn't go into detail. I just remember hearing the OD and then obviously the fact that Johnny really took care of her during that particularly hectic or chaotic time in her life. I mean, it
Right.
seems like the guy has a good heart. Like I've heard stories um
Everybody.
on yeah, that said
Everybody comes out and they're like, he's great. He's amazing. Like,
even like from like tipping, they said that when he tips, he's all like it tips like what's your rent for the month, you
yeah, I
know?
saw that too. Yeah.
I thought that was like incredibly nice. It seems like he's a very generous man in his life, which is good, right? And maybe because I don't think he came from wealth. I think he came from humble beginnings. I don't think he's
Yeah,
someone
he
that
did.
came yeah, that came from that came from, with a silver spoon in their mouth, which is another thing. I've noticed that a lot of young Hollywood does not come I mean, let's just say the nepotism is real, is not coming from like humbler backgrounds. You know what I mean? Either they came from humble backgrounds, but they were kid stars that have been working ever since they were 5, 6,
Right.
that were helping, or they were like the kid of somebody, famous,
Right. Yeah.
or just came from privilege, right? That kid, that popular actor, what is it, Timothy
Chalamet.
Shalama. I think that's how you spell his name. He comes
Chalamet.
from privilege. Yeah.
Does he?
He
I don't
yeah, he
even
used
know
to
who he is. I
yeah, he
mean, we
came
talked about him on the last one, but I don't know who
we
he is.
did. We did. He came from privilege. He used to date Madonna's daughter. And you know who else came from privilege? Lady Gaga came from privilege. Yep.
Really?
Yes. And so did Ariana Grande. Ariana Grande. She also came from privilege. Her mom was a CEO of a company, and Lady Gaga's family went to private school. So you'd be surprised how many of these like singer-songwriters and actors are coming up really come from privilege. That's not to say that they didn't work hard for what they got, because obviously you have to work hard. But I think there is a bigger difference when you have to pay your rent, and where, as opposed to assuming your parents are helping you out, that they pay your rent for you.
Yeah. Well, Johnny was talking about that he was friends with Nicolas Cage, and that's who got him into acting.
Nicolas Cage comes from privilege too. I don't know if he personally comes from privilege, but I know he is related to Francis Ford Coppola. Coppola? Yeah.
Who's that?
The Godfather?
Oh,
Director
okay.
of The Godfather? Yeah. So he's the director of all the Godfather movies. So he's a very famous director. Did the Godfather movies. And then what else did he do? He did a lot more than that. Did no, that was Bram Stoker's Dracula. I think he's won. Let me
Hmm.
see. I think he's won a couple of Oscars. Let me see here. I gotta look that up. But yeah, he famous director. He's related to Nicolas Cage. But you know what? I think they were really young people doing all the same things at the same time. So, oh my goodness, he's 83 years old.
Wow.
Oh yes. I don't know if he's won. Let's see. Let me see what movies he's made. He is oh, let's see his awards here. I had Wikipedia the guy. I just remember him from the Godfather movies. I'm sure he's done a lot of movies. He did The Godfather Part 2, Apocalypse Now, Rumblefish, The Cotton Cub, Peggy Sue Got Married, The Godfather Part 3, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and The Rainmaker. So he's got a lot of credits, film credits for sure. For sure. But yeah, that's his uncle, I believe. So he
Oh,
didn't
okay. Wow.
yeah. Yeah, but just because your uncle's successful doesn't mean that your dad's successful. I will say that.
Yeah.
So,
Or that they even talk. Yeah.
or that they even talk, right? So Nicolas Cage is his nephew, or that they even talk. Oh my goodness. I used to think Nicolas Cage was really cute when he was younger, but just kind of like in an odd way. And now it's, I mean, people get older, but I mean, he's just not my cup of tea now. Let's just put it
Yeah.
that way.
He's not a bad looking guy, but yeah, definitely not somebody I'd be like, ooh.
Right? Right. Yeah, definitely not. But yeah, so it's just interesting about like kind of how some of this young Hollywood is very, connected. Um and comes from privilege. So it's easier to get in when your parent knows somebody, or you don't have to worry about paying rent, and all you have to do is just like go to California and become an actor, son. I'll support you in
Yeah.
whatever you need. So definitely like a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. Watching this though has just made me like, man, I could have been an actor. Right? Like seeing that Amber, well, and this is one of the things that they talked about in the, what day was it? Oh, I guess her last day, basically, that Johnny got her that part in Aquaman. And oh, and then they were talking to this lady, her talent manager, right? Like
Mhm.
yesterday or something. And they were like, normally after a person plays a part like that, they get more popular, they get asked to do more things, but she didn't. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it was because her acting sucks. Like, she's not the best actor. That was probably the best role she's ever going to get to play, minus all the shit that's going on. But I feel that would have been her biggest role that she would have ever played, regardless, just
you
because her quality of acting.
you have to keep in mind that she wrote that. So if Johnny Depp is so generous and benevolent to everybody, right? And he's has a career that stems 20 plus years and has a reputation of being really generous with the people around them, the people that work for him, the wait staff, everybody he's encountered, and been very polite. It only makes sense that when she started talking bad about him and released that op-ed, she probably burned a lot of bridges that she didn't realize she was burning.
Oh, for sure. That too. Yeah.
And for her, she had thought, I think, that she already had it made, right?
Well,
And but
you're sitting there trying to down on Hollywood, right? Because she's trying to say that the article was about how basically elite men are treated differently and a blind eye is turned. You're trying to down on these channels, these, big corporations for not sticking up for all women. Why would they want to work for you when you're downing on all of them, saying that they're sketchy and they support men who abuse people?
well, she wasn't wrong with Harvey Weinstein. I
She's
mean,
no one's
she's
saying
not,
she's wrong. No one's saying she's wrong, right? We all know
but
she's not wrong. But
here's the thing.
you're
Go
gonna
ahead.
talk shit about these people. You're gonna talk shit about these people and expect them to want to work with you after you call them all liars and that they stick up for abusers.
And that's because she was a kind of, I think she was already kind of on the tail end of that whole Harvey scandal. And I don't even think she lived that. And keep in mind, this is the same woman that allegedly went into Kevin Costner's trailer and
And me too'd him, shit.
Me too'd him, right? So
Allegedly. Allegedly.
allegedly, allegedly Me too'd him. So here's the thing. She was using the system to work for her, right? The system that was already in place to work for her.
Yeah.
So she got this man who was obviously just broken up with his wife. I don't know. I don't think there was much time between him and Vanessa breaking up. She got him at a vulnerable time. She's an attractive lady. You can't take that away that she's a pretty girl. Although I do think she looked prettier before than she does now. I think this whole
She
case,
got some work done too, like her cheeks and stuff. Yeah, I don't like it. She looked again prettier
she
the
was
other
prettier.
way. Yeah.
She was prettier before, more natural. and now she doesn't look as, and she's older too. She doesn't look as pretty and fresh faced as she did before. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I don't know if there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying she just doesn't look good. And then now that you know her personality, there's nothing more that would make a person unattractive than their personality. Like you can be a 10, but if your personality is at a 0, everybody's going to find you unattractive.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what she kind of did that to herself, right? Where she badmouths a really sweet man. So it was probably somebody that would be like, I think when that op-ed came out, people were like, seriously? Because he was super sweet to me, right?
Hmm.
So I think that
Yeah.
that was kind of the that would be it. I mean, that's what she did. So I just think that she found a meal ticket, and then she found a way to get into Hollywood, found a way to move into those circles. And then when she found that she could move into those circles without Johnny, right? Because he already gave her the in. I mean, come on, she dated Elon Musk. Like she went from Johnny Depp to a billionaire.
Elon was seeking her out. So it wasn't because of like her meeting Elon at that event. I think it was the Met Gala. Elon was actually seeking her out previously, I think.
So you think previously to her, you don't think that Johnny's connections got her in those circles? And that's where
No,
he kind of,
not for that. Not for
not for
that,
the Elon
because
situation?
Elon, right, because Elon has been said to have actually been the one seeking out Amber Heard. Like, had just like he was trying to set up multiple um ways to meet with her.
Oh, wow.
It's
So he
kind of
didn't know
weird.
any, so
Yeah.
he didn't know any better. I'm just
He
trying to figure
knew
out,
he knew she was with Johnny.
he didn't care.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. Like it was kind of one of those things where like he liked the way she looked, I think. She's got a very specific type. From what I've heard, he wants his woman blonde, and I mean there's a really huge difference between her and his current partner or whatever they are.
Is he
Um
still with Grimes?
Something like that. I think they've kind of got this whole friendship relationship thing, multiple kid type situation, and kind of see the same eye of where the world wants to go or something. They've got this ideal of the world together.
Mm.
um so yeah, that I don't know.
I think
Supposedly
that
they're friend partners or whatever.
in sync, I just really do think because they're those two women are worlds apart in terms of
For
looks
sure.
wise and personality wise. But I don't think,
Oh
well,
yeah,
as we all know,
Grimes
Elon
is
and
smart as fuck.
yeah, she's a
Yeah,
smart girl on a different
not
other.
to say Amber's not smart in certain areas, but yeah, way different than Grimes.
Well, I mean, well, you know how allegedly Amber liked to get photographed with books, so it looked like she was
So it looked like she was
so,
smart.
so she like she was smart. I don't really believe the bios Hollywood puts out, like unless they're talking about being, that they interview them and you're like, wow, they really have some sort of substance behind them. But I do think that Hollywood plays up because all of these actors are all brilliant. Like all of them are geniuses. Well, not really. Some of them are probably not. But,
Yeah.
they kind of like made their way. But going back to Me Too, I think she did um try to utilize that system. Try to utilize sex as a commodity, right? In order
Hmm.
to get to where she was at. Now, obviously, this is all alleged, but I mean, that's how I feel. That's my opinion on her relationship with Johnny Depp. Do you think she loved him? Because her sister said that Whitney did testify that she felt that Johnny loved that Amber loved Johnny. That she because she was like she loved him and I wanted to support her.
That's a tough one, and that's kind of one of those things that like, what does love really mean to her, right? Does she love the idea of love, or does she really love him?
Or does she just love herself and has inability anybody else?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, like Dr. Curry said, I mean, she's got basically like separation anxiety, right? She doesn't want the person to leave her.
oh my goodness, that's gotta be, ooh, that's gotta be difficult to deal with, to have to deal with. You know, what I do think by listening to the Johnny tapes of Amber and Johnny is how sad he sounded and disappointed. And I, what I did relate is I know what it's like to know that your trying everything you can for your relationship to work and it not working. I think everybody that's been through a divorce or a really big breakup like that identified with that aspect of it where you were like, wow, like I'm really relating to Johnny where you really want something to work out and you're in your mind trying to figure out why it's not working out and it's just it's going to fail and you don't want it to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I really did feel that.
Well, and there's even the audio of him saying basic or yeah, of him where he's like, you make basically like she makes him hate himself.
Mhm.
You know, like what would a person be having to do to you to make you hate yourself, right? Because he's turned into this thing like he doesn't even know what it is, you know?
To hate yourself in the relationship. And that's because when you're in a bad relationship, you bring out the worst in that person and that person brings out the worst in you.
Yeah.
And you don't I mean there and especially if you want a marriage to work. I don't think anybody gets married and doesn't want it to work. You know, and almost and he did want it to work. He wanted it to be like Lauren Bacall, Humphrey Bogart. I think
Oh
those were
God.
the two
Mm.
he mentioned that he wanted to have like where I'm with this woman for the rest of my days.
Yeah.
And I, and I get it because he's pushing 60, right? And
Yeah.
at this point
Well, he was in his
his
late 40s with her when they got together.
yeah, and he's pushing 60. And granted, I mean, he can have any girlfriend he wants. Like, he's not a bad looking dude, considering he's in his 60s. But
Mm-mm.
having to, find somebody who's real and legitimate and you're going to like spend the rest of your life with.
Yeah.
And now knowing that you can't really go back because your ex partner has moved on, right? That door is completely closed. And now trying to figure out how you're going to navigate the next stage of your life. Because at
You
this point,
know,
he's 5 years from retirement, like, so to speak.
oh no, I mean, look at people like Sean Connery and stuff like that, right? They've gone on till late 70s, 80s.
For sure,
I
acting.
think he's still got a long way in him.
He does, but I'm just talking from having to deal with like a relationship. Although I do
Oh
think
yeah.
Sean Connery's been married for a really long time to the same woman. I
Oh, I
gotta
don't mean
Google
like
that one.
that. I thought you meant like in the acting, right? Saying like
Oh,
he's about to retire. Um, I think he's got quite a while until he retires.
oh, for sure. You know what? But I do think that the roles start getting less and less.
Yeah. Well,
I
yeah, you're
don't
kind of limited to what. Well, I don't know. There's quite a bit
Well, like
though.
age appropriate, like you're limited to what you can act in. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, let's be honest. Acting is a young person's game. Like it's
Yeah.
18, 19. Like I mean, even look at Angelina Jolie. I mean, she at one point,
Hasn't
and
been
it's
in
probably
much. Yeah.
hasn't been in much lately. I mean, she's been behind the scenes as maybe a director, but really hasn't been is in as much. And I think with women and even with men, I think men probably have a little bit more just because of the way society perceives them. But women, there's only you're only attractive to a certain point. before
Mhm.
people don't see you. That you have, and I don't think that, I'm just want to be clear, I don't think women have a shelf life. I think
Right.
women are gorgeous at every age, but
Yeah.
society doesn't see it that way. Unfortunately, it's something that
Yeah.
needs to change, but they don't see it that way. So, like, when was the last time Angelina Jolie was in something? So, even with
Well,
Johnny
I think
Depp,
for her, she's been doing a lot of humanitarian type stuff lately. Like she
for
was just
sure,
in Ukraine.
for sure. So that was one lady that changed her image. I mean, she's just like adopted a whole bunch of children and had a whole bunch of kids and did a lot of humanitarian effort. But you're right, she's doing a lot of humanitarian. But let's see, let's just think of actresses that are over 40 that are actively like working.
Well, what's her face? That funny lady from the Golden Girls. She worked for a long time. She was in all
She
kinds of
did.
movies. Betty White.
She did. Betty White. Betty White. But I think she was an exception, though. I don't think that's necessarily like the norm.
Yeah. Hmm.
I just, so I mean, even with Amber Heard, like after a certain age, they're looking for like starlet. I think she's 30. I mean, she's 36. She's had a lot of roles. She's had a lot of working roles,
Yeah.
but she's really known as Johnny Depp's wife.
Yeah, I would think if you haven't made it by 36 being her, you're probably not gonna. If you've been in it for as long as she has, right?
For
And you
sure.
still haven't made it big only by the means of your husband getting you a role, allegedly. 'Cause we don't want to
Yeah, for
get in
sure.
trouble. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Um, but honestly, I've seen her acting and stuff, and not just in court, but she sucks. She's not a good actress. Not to play a like leading role at all.
Yeah. And she always played, and I think Johnny was right in saying if you want to move on, you have to learn to say no to some of these roles that are kind of like sexier roles, right?
Hmm.
Like have to say no to those so you can move on to have like more serious roles.
Yeah.
So I think that that was what she was saying when I think that's when Whitney was saying like, well, he didn't let her be in certain films. I think he was trying to get her in films that would help her career, right? That
Right.
would really help her gain that longevity where she goes into like serious acting.
Yeah.
So I mean, the whole situation is just completely sad. It is very depressing that they both have to go through this. I mean, even on her end, like she's a mother now, as much as, she's doing all these things, but at the same
Yeah.
time,
Be on the internet.
she's a mother. Like, and she has to take care of her kid. Although I think, honestly, I personally think that that kid allegedly, I'll say allegedly, is Elon, and I think that kid's probably taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with the aspect of like Elon loves kids. I don't know how Grimes would feel about that. Of like, I mean, I'm sure Grimes can't be stupid. I mean, she's incredibly smart from the things I've heard her say and talk about. There's no way that she doesn't know that that baby's not Elon's. You know?
She would have to know. I think she would have to know, but they have an odd relationship because they're on and they're off. So
And
I, you know,
yeah, they're whatever they are.
whatever they are, for sure.
Whatever they are, they're there.
They are, for sure. They're kind of in their little world. So, so what do you think about Courtney getting married to Travis? Like if we're talking about like marriage and relationships,
I don't
what are your
even
thoughts
know.
on that?
I
You
don't
know,
follow that a whole lot. Um, they're all, I don't know. I mean, Scott practically lives with them still. I
they're
don't
an
know.
eclectic couple. So supposedly he's not invited to the wedding. So they had that wedding that they had the courthouse wedding, and now they're going to have another wedding quote unquote, celebration in Italy, and apparently Scott Disick isn't invited to that.
Oh, okay, maybe
Um,
that's the clip I saw. They were like, "You didn't
yeah.
invite Scott?"
No, she didn't. She invited her kids. The first wedding that she had with the courthouse, it was just her grandmother and Travis's dad. The second, those are the only ones I saw pictures of. I'm sure there was other, but the kids weren't there. In this wedding, the kids are gonna be there. And then they're just gonna have their celebration, and then apparently they're gonna have like another celebration in Los Angeles with like a bigger group. So that overall, like three parties. Um, I do find it interesting that Travis has said on the record that he was mostly, when he was dating Paris Hilton, that he was mostly attracted to Kim. And that's, Courtney's sister. Courtney's obviously younger sister. And now he's dating Courtney. I mean, I guess it's okay, right?
That's kind of weird.
It is kind of weird. It is kind of
That
weird that
is
he's
kind
all
of
like,
weird.
"Yeah, I was really into you," but I didn't think that he was. I don't think he thought he was going to be dating Courtney, and much less marrying Courtney. And they're all over each other, like all over each other.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of weird. If I had ever heard my boyfriend, if I had a sister like them, say that he liked my sister a lot, blah blah blah, I would probably find that really hard to date him.
I would too. I don't think. I think that's one of that for me. That would be like a no. Like no.
Yeah, I couldn't do
Like
that.
you just told me. You've just gone on the record and said that you've found my sister attractive, right?
Yeah, there's too much that
And
could be had there.
then you're like, then now we're dating. I don't even know if I would have given him a chance. Granted, that was years ago, right? Since then he had he married I can't remember,
Oh,
Shauna
hmm,
Mokler, and then divorced. So maybe they're like, well, it's just been a long time. But in my mind, I think I would have held on to that. I think in my mind I would have been like, he found my sister attractive.
yeah,
Now he's dating me. I don't know if I think I would hold it against him. I think that I wouldn't even, and apparently she made the forced move, like she started flirting with him but I don't even think I would have crossed that line after you said that. I think it would have been a done deal for me. I would have been like,
yeah,
no, not interested. Thank you, but no thank you.
yeah. Same.
I would have been
Because
like, no.
they don't look anything alike.
Mm-mm.
So I mean, no.
I don't know. I just thought that was kind of like bizarre. I wouldn't have gone for that. I would have been like, it's over, dude. We're donezo.
Yeah, there would have not been anything in the first place with that.
Mm-mm. Not at all. I think it would have been done. I've been over it. So, I mean, I've just been all over this case. I can't wait for it to be over. Then
Me
uh,
too. I just want
on
to get
to
on with
other
my other
things,
life.
Grant. On to other things, because it's just so much drama going on. But you know what it is, Michelle? You said that, heck, I could have gone to Hollywood and become an actress. I think that the veil has kind of been pulled away from actors, right? Think about it. There used to be this mystery
Yeah.
with them. You didn't, well, before there wasn't paparazzi, there wasn't social media, there wasn't the fact that if an actor treated you like crap and you were their waiter, you had the ability to go on social media and tell the world how this was a crappy person or how this person acted in a good way or a bad way, like instantaneous, right? And now that
Mhm.
whole mystique is gone. Like now just like they're regular people like everybody
So,
else.
have you seen the TikTok going around that Paris Hilton is going to be filling the role of Mara in Aquaman 2?
Paris Hilton?
Girl, right? That was my reaction too. Like Paris Hilton. And I don't know how true this is, but supposedly, and it was by a trustworthy person that posts on TikTok, that Warner Brothers had made some kind of comment or something in regards to Paris Hilton, and then Paris Hilton made a post that she was at Warner Brothers meeting rooms or something like that with a picture of the meeting room.
Maybe, unless she had some other project going on. But
I think she hashtagged it with Aquaman.
It could be, and if that's the case, then
Like
it's
Paris
like
Hilton.
then anybody can be, anybody can be an actor for sure. They can go off and, and have at it or try it. Do you think that the days of actors being sole brand ambassadors is going to be over? Do you think because of social media and kind of the ability of other people to influence, do you think that the actors may not have the same opportunities they did before, or that companies may be willing to spend less? Because if you can technically have the same reach using someone on social media versus, having somebody like a Jennifer Aniston and paying them millions of dollars, that they would have the same reach.
Here's the thing with that though, is that that's going to depend on the quality of actor, right? Because you can have the reach all you want, but if the movie and the actor in that position sucks, people aren't going to tell their friends to watch it.
For sure.
So you can have the reach all over social media, but once a few people start watching it, word's going to get out if the movie is good or bad. If you got someone in that part who's not a good actress, it's going to fucking kill the movie.
So
To an
you're just
extent, I guess. Well, because they sat there and tried to say Aquaman was the biggest box hit movie, blah blah blah. Wrong. Black Panther's number one.
Mhm.
I think Aquaman fell at number 13 or something like that, or maybe it was 6, but it wasn't number one.
Because I would consider Paris Hilton, granted she's a reality star, but I would consider more so of an influencer, and she's a DJ too, but
Yeah,
than an actress or an actor. Like I don't think she's not known for that, and for her to jump
yeah,
into that role, unless it's going to be minimal. Now, I've never seen Aquaman, so I don't know. Um, I've never seen it.
yeah. I haven't seen it either. I've only seen clips and stuff, but I mean, if it's going to be a small part, I guess. But if you're planning on making more branch off movies from that, and you're expecting that person to have a bigger role, then
I
you're going to
don't
want to
know.
put somebody really good in it. I think
It's
they would
true.
have done really well by taking the girl that played Daenerys on, I think that was her name, the Dragon Queen on Game of Thrones.
Hmm.
Her
Oh,
and Jason
yes.
Momoa already have great chemistry.
Oh, they
Why
do.
why
Why would
wouldn't
they
you put
use
her there?
use
Yeah,
her? You're right. You're right. You know, remember we had talked about that I had thought Jason Momoa had gotten back with Lisa Bonet. Apparently, the divorce is still on. Like they
oh,
didn't get back together. Yeah, he's dating an actress. Her name's Elsa
Amber Heard.
Gonzalez. No, he's not. He's not. He's dating this actress named Elsa Gonzalez. I can't remember what movie she's in, but she's a Spanish actress. But she's in other movies. US movies. I just can't remember. I can't place her. But she's up and coming, and she's dating Jason Momoa, and they said that it wasn't serious, but it was just casual. I always thought that was weird. Why would you? Here's my whole thing. It's not serious. It's casual. We really like each other. I think it's fake. It doesn't seem real. Why would you put it out there that you're dating this new person
Yeah.
and she's not really well known? She's not, be honest. Like, she's
But
not
like
well
your
known actress.
divorce isn't even final.
And his divorce isn't even. He's got 2 kids. Nah, I don't know. I just always thought that was like weird. I put
That
that.
just seems like a terrible situation.
Oh, for sure. For sure, it seems like a terrible situation. By all means. I mean, it's like, why even put it out there?
Yeah. If somebody told me that they were in the middle of a divorce, you know what? Bye. Like you have not clearly cleaned up whatever mentally happened to you during that relationship, because you're still going through that relationship. Whether you're going through divorce or not, you're still going through it. You're still emotionally attached to that situation and have not had time to clear yourself from it. So I am not like, nope, you know what? Call me after you've sought therapy after this.
After
And
you I 100% agree with you. I didn't date I didn't date while I was going through my divorce. And let me tell you, divorces take a long time. They do. And I wasn't, dating anyone. And I think in California, I believe there's a 6 month waiting period. I got to verify that. Don't quote me on that. But there's a waiting period before, where they give you, I guess, the opportunity to reconcile. So, yeah, it can take a while. And if you have kids, forget it. It can take a long time. So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily start dating someone when they're still going through a divorce. I mean, same thing with Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson, right? She's
yeah,
going
that was
through a
a mess.
divorce. She's going through a divorce, and then she's like, why bring, if it's not serious, why bring the person into the mix when you have kids? Like, if it's this is my take, and I don't, any woman can date whoever she wants. This is just me personally.
Hmm. Yeah.
If I had kids, I would not introduce it or to the world or let the world know until I know it gotten to a certain level of seriousness where I'm like, this relationship's serious. I'm going to introduce him to my kids. I've already talked to my spouse. I'm moving on. But when you're in the middle of a divorce, to your point, like, you got to heal from all that stuff. Heal from all of that. And that's a lot to
Yeah.
heal
I mean,
from.
that was a lot of trauma with what's his face, Kanye.
Kanye. Oh, he went crazy. He went crazy. Like, he was everywhere. I mean, he was like,
Yeah, I
now he's
can't
got a new
imagine the
girlfriend.
things that she's gone through mentally with him. Like, was he good for her? Absolutely. I think he turned her into who she is right now, which is stupid rich, right? Like, they were rich before, but now she's a different kind of rich. She's doing different things. We talked about this last time. She's got that whole dark, classy thing going about her, instead of like a trashy kind of look, um, where her boobs were out or butt was clearly way out and stuff like that, right? Like, now she covers everything up, and while it's form fitting and things, like, she just carries herself differently now. So I think it was good for her in that way. But in terms of mentally, with the way that he was behaving for the world to see, I can't imagine what the world didn't see.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, he put it all out there. There was social media behind social media. And look at the way his new girl dresses. Like, I mean, it's like he took that look. Because in all reality, I know people say, is he really a genius? Is he not a genius? If he
I'm
put
sure he
her and
is.
dressed her, oh my goodness, he's talent, he's artistic in a lot of ways. I mean, he took her and he styled her, and these are like things that he designed and he put
Hmm.
together, right? And on top of that, his music and him putting his rhythm. So this is somebody that's super talented. But I really do think that the dealing with someone with Kanye, I think it's a lot. I think it's like having a drink from like this huge water hose, like just a whole bunch of and trying
Hmm.
to drink it. It's just like ideas, information on
Manic, like in a
manic,
manic. Yeah.
manic. I
Well,
got these ideas. I got these things.
she was talking about in one video where, and I don't know if we talked about this, but she was talking to the trainer and she needed to lose like 20 pounds. And the trainer was like, it's not going to happen. That's crazy. And Kanye was like, if she said she needed to lose weight in her big toe, you better figure out how the fuck to make her lose weight in that big toe. Like, just stuff like that.
Oh man, and you were a trainer. If I were them, I would have walked away. I was like, fine, we'll find somebody else. I don't need
Well,
the
I would
money.
have never said that in the first place. Oh, that's not going to happen. I would have never said that. She's got tons of money. There's no way for it not to happen. There is a way. So I would have never said, especially 20 pounds. That's easy.
Yeah,
No,
that's true.
if you're dedicated, that's easy.
That's true. That's true. You're 100% right. So you as a trainer would have never said that. Would have never said you can't lose those 20 pounds.
I mean, unless it was medically insufficient for her,
Hmm.
then that's one thing. But if it was not going to medically cause a problem and she wanted to do it and that's what they wanted, I would never tell my client that's not going to happen. ever. I've had clients tell me they want to lose 100 pounds. Like, well, let's do it. Now, depending on how dedicated you are, is going
Yeah.
to depend on how fast that happens, right? Because there are means that you could do if she really wanted to lose that much weight. She probably could have took a few pounds out of her ass,
Mhm.
and that would have been done over a weekend.
Yeah.
So it just comes down to how dedicated are you. Are you willing to amputate a limb? Are you willing to get some fat sucked out? Are you willing to be on your diet strict and work out every single time that you're supposed to work out, do the workouts that you're supposed to do, weigh your food, all of that kind of stuff.
For sure. So yeah, maybe to your point, his response may have been merited. Because initially I thought, whoa, that's pretty rude for Kanye. But then when I see your perspective in saying, hey, I would never tell a client they can't lose 20 pounds or they can't lose 100 pounds. You'd be like,
Yeah.
let's do it. This is what you need to do, and I can get you there. So
Yeah. Yeah. Again,
you're
unless it
right,
was medically something that would hurt them, no, I
for
wouldn't.
sure. That's fair. I mean, I think that's valid. It's valid for sure.
Yeah. Especially if you don't know what that person is capable of. I mean, that was a very stupid statement to make to people that are so rich, I think.
Oh my goodness. It just
Especially
amazes.
over 20 pounds.
Oh yeah.
Like,
It just amazes me how wealthy they are. Like when I just see the amount of wealth in the United States, like how wealthy the Kardashians are and the amount of money. Like it was one of the shows where Chris was all like, "Well, do you want the chef to cut it for you?" Like
oh
chef
yeah,
like
she's like, I'll cut my own.
my own cucumber. But I mean, it's insane the amount of
Mhm.
money these folks have. And I didn't even know the amount of money Travis had. They were showing Travis Barker's house, and it's just insane. And in my mind, I just I don't know how they make that sort of money, like social media, brand deals, all of this.
Yep.
Like, or is it once you get into that circle where you have all these contacts of other rich people, they're like, hey, well, get into this and get into this. Like, do you have that availability? Because now when you have millions of dollars to put in investments in play with the big boys, so to speak, are opportunities more open to you than the kind of like the regular person.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The stuff that we used to learn at Robbins, at the events even. I mean, he
Um,
teaches this stuff to people at the events. Um, I mean, he has his Lions Club, I think the Lions Club, and they have a financial event every year with the world's top financial leaders. I
oh wow.
mean, there's a level of wealthy that once you hit it, like there are certain companies that you can't work with unless you have a certain net worth as far as stocks. And then if you don't make that much, you can't play with them.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And because they have way better information than a lot of these other regular companies that anybody can invest in, because they're investing big dollar amounts.
Wow.
So,
Did you
yeah, I mean, there's
did you
information.
did you meet anybody that was like extremely wealthy when you work for that organization?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we can't really discuss like who we meet in our groups and stuff, but I've met hosts of TV shows that everybody knows. Um, I mean, there have been people that I haven't specifically also like met because like some of
Mhm,
the events you're in certain groups and you
mhm.
actually have to interact with those people and talk to them and get to know them and stuff. But then we have people also at the events who we're not directly interacting with, but they're there. Um, but the top people of the who's who for whatever industry we're learning about, he has
Mhm.
there.
Oh wow. Do they just well
He's
you
I
they were
mean, he's
virtual,
met
weren't
with
they?
people from the, World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum, and he's up there.
It just seems very fascinating to me when you talk to these people who are at that level. On another note, this is like so out there, but what are your thoughts about the US government finally acknowledging that there's UFOs? Like after all this time, they're saying, look, there's reports of, pilots seeing these things, and there's reports of people seeing these things, and it's finally time that we took it seriously. And here's the thing, because that was a conspiracy theory. It was a conspiracy theory, and now it's one of those things that the US government finally said, yep, there's UFOs. We got to investigate them.
But this is the crazy thing is people are talking about this meeting that they're just having. There was a meeting in 2013 that disclosed way more information than they just disclosed at this hearing.
Oh,
This
wow.
hearing was a joke. It was a
You think
joke.
so?
And they're
Wow.
trying to say that this is the first meeting in 50 years, but they had a meeting in 2013 that discussed a lot of things that were out there, and they had quite a few like very smart physicists and doctors and stuff on the panel that were talking about information that they had seen, and people with the government that they had spoke to and worked with that have verified to them that there is stuff out there and stuff that has to do with Roswell. And to me, and you can find this hearing on YouTube, it's a multiple day hearing, um, but I feel it disclosed way more information than this little show of a meeting they had.
So
And
what was the difference? Because I didn't listen to. I just got the little news snippet everybody got that said that had a gentleman speaking on acknowledging that there was UFOs and that we needed to investigate them.
basically, at this hearing, a lot of what they said is, yeah, there's stuff out there. We don't know what it is, but if it's going to possibly be a security problem for the United States, we can't share that information with the public,
Wow.
which it is, because if we have certain technologies that we're admitting to, it becomes a problem for um, other countries that want that information too, who are going to try to do things to us. Therefore, it becomes a security problem. So they're trying to cover their ass and say, well, we can't really share this information with the public because then it shares it with everybody. So
So what
gotta
do you
stay
think
hush
they
hush.
are? Do you think it's intelligence from like another country, that they have some technology that we don't have?
I think if that was the case, we would have already had people take that power into a position, right? Put it over on the other countries and take over. And we haven't seen that yet. Do I think other countries have stuff that we don't? I do. I think other
Mm,
countries have stuff that we don't and that we don't understand. Um, I mean, to sit there and say that we don't have information about anti-gravity and stuff like that, we do. Because, I mean, if you look back at Germany, he was building, Hitler was having built the Die Glock, I think Die Glock or Die Glock,
mhm,
which is called the bell, right? And it basically was a thing that defied gravity. Nobody knows where that is.
mhm,
Like
mhm,
the hexagon that it used to sit in is completely empty, and nobody actually knows where the die block itself is.
mm.
And I mean, there are multiple accounts of that and what that thing could do. Um, so yeah, I mean, there are so many sightings that they're kind of inundated with all the information. And they
So,
also just for one, they can't follow up on all of them, but two, they're just not really seeming to care about all of the things that are reported. And they've been sweeping a lot of it under the rug, under like, oh, it's an air balloon or whatever, some kind of balloon and stuff like that. Like, there's a guy that worked for the government that testified in the 2013 one, who that was his previous job. Like, he's retired in this meeting. He doesn't actively work for the government, but he previously did. And mind you, this is 2013, and he is
mhm,
saying that his job within the government was to debunk sightings and
mm,
tell the public what it was, like a
Hmm.
balloon or, gaslight us.
That's interesting because I remember seeing things on YouTube where there were actual pilots that said, "Hey, this is what I saw." And people were like, "Yeah, he's pretty crazy." They didn't really, they kind of, and one of the things that I heard in this, when they were talking, was really that, he specifically called out that pilots were afraid to report what they saw because people were going to think that there was something wrong with them. So he gave a nod to those pilots who had come out after they were out of the service to talk about what they had seen without a doubt. And they seem credible. I don't know, but there's always a part of you that thinks like, really? Maybe not. You sure you saw that?
But with, like, again, you can look at body language too
Hmm.
and see, are they being honest when they're talking?
Yeah.
Like, are these people trained in that, in body language? Yeah, absolutely. But our subconscious, there are going to be certain signs where they're going to give it away, like
Hmm.
subconsciously. And if you look at how they tell their stories and just their presentation, the information that they bring, specific dates, stuff like that, and I don't know. I mean, watching the one from 2013, they all seemed very honest and didn't really have a reason anymore to not tell the truth.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. One of the doctors that testified is actually like one of the guys that you see pop up on the Gaia stuff sometimes.
Hmm.
I don't know if you get those, but I do. But he's
No,
actually
I
a
don't.
doctor that talks on those. Are you familiar with Gaia?
No, not at all. Go ahead and tell me what is Gaia.
Gaia is like a channel or something that specifically talks about like encounters and stuff that we don't really understand with space and things like that.
Hmm.
UFOs, aliens. It's also very spiritual type stuff.
Yeah.
So it's got a large range. I mean, there's people that are also on there that talk about energy and energy work and how quantum physics has to do with energy work and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So it's not, just spiritual yah talk, but it actually is very scientific and talks about
Hmm.
like how it all ties into everything. And this doctor that testified, mind you, he's on the Gaia channel, but testified as a person worth talking to
Hmm.
at this last meeting in 2023. So, I
Hmm.
mean, why would the government want to talk to somebody who is crazy? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would they even have him in if that wasn't a credible person to testify?
Oh, wow. So yeah,
Um, yeah,
I
and
gotta
I
look into
mean,
it. Excuse
there's
me. I
just
gotta look
different
into
stuff.
Gaia for sure. Have to look into it because I've never heard of it.
Some of the stuff I have a hard time with. I'm like, like this one guy claims to be a Tartarian or something, some kind of alien. He claims to be an alien. Um, so I have a hard time with those ones because he looks like a human to me. But yeah, so some of the stuff like that. But I mean, also one of the people that they had testify was oh, How. I think her last name is How. I forget her first name, but she's won multiple awards with her movies, her
Uh,
documentary movies that she's done. I think Linda Howe
um,
is her name. Um, she's done documentaries about basically alien type situations, specifically one where there were cows being killed and basically having their tongues and eyes and I think testicles or something all removed from them, but literally not one drop of blood anywhere. And it was
mhm.
mass fields of these cows
Oh, wow.
and not one drop of blood anywhere. But she's talked to government officials and stuff that have had her go out and speak to these people at events and stuff that have happened. Um, yeah, I mean, it was really, really interesting.
Do you think that the US, obviously they probably know more than I mean, right now they're acknowledging it and that it needs to be investigated. I don't know, is the end result, do you think that they want more resources, from
Well, one of the things that Linda Howe talks about is if they accept all the technology that we have, they know it will remove us from oil and gas
mm,
and give us free energy.
mm,
And that just, they don't want that to happen.
mm.
And she talked about that in the hearing and testified to that.
And this one is in 2022 or
2013.
the one in 2013? Oh, interesting. I
That's what
gotta
I'm
Google
saying. The
her.
one in 2013 was way more informative. I don't think it was an official, and I think these Congress people, I don't understand how they were all at a hearing together because from what I understood, these Congress people were retired. I don't know if they meant retired from Congress or retired from their job that they did previously and were just
Mhm.
working as
Yeah.
Congress people. But it was a hearing with Congress people, whether they were retired or not. It was very official. It had, government officials there and everything. These doctors, physicists, scientists, um, all testifying to way more than what we heard this year.
Find it interesting. Yeah. I only, like I said, I only heard an excerpt of it, and then I was just like, wow, they're finally admitting to it and they want to do more research on it. I wonder what they've found or what they're finding, right? Because obviously maybe they want more
Mhm.
funds allocated to that sort of research. Who knows?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think it behooves the government to let out all of the things that they actually know because in the 2013 hearing, they talked about there is proof within documents in history that
Mm,
sightings and interactions with other dimensional beings or interstellar beings have been happening like way back from the time of the Romans to they even have talked about certain occasions that happened like in Egypt and the Bible and just stuff like that. That's why I'm just like this hearing that we just had, I don't feel really did justice compared to the information that we already had in 2013.
and then and then there's also some um theories that indigenous tribes um may have seen UFOs, right? So
Hmm.
there's a lot of information out there in regards to that. I remember watching, I don't know if it was on the History Channel or I don't remember it was on the Sci-Fi Channel where they usually had like, they had like UFOs and they had all these
Yeah,
shows, where
History Channel and stuff.
History Channel. And how did these indigenous folks make this? Did they have technology from an outside world? So it was all kind of,
Yeah.
that's it.
Well,
So now when they recognized it, I was like, whoa, things are getting serious now.
we are learning that ancient civilizations were a lot more advanced than we are giving them credit for by any means.
So,
So
go ahead.
we've already basically changed the timeline too on when we thought humans were around by thousands of years. Thousands.
So one of the things that was brought up, and I don't know if it was on a TikTok, and I don't know how accurate this is. So again, I haven't really done my research on it, so I'm going to preface that. But they said that that the indigenous folks knew the land, and so they treated the land as such, right? So when they came to this land, you know how there's all these wildfires and all of this, the land, it was taken care of, right? The indigenous people of North America were stewards of the land and they understood how the land worked. So
Right.
they had trails that they would walk through, areas that they would places where they would where the ones that weren't nomadic would plant. So they took care. So when it was always when we were taught in school, it was always that the pilgrims came, and that I did learn about indigenous folks planting corn, but I really didn't learn about how this land was shaped to the way they wanted it to be shaped. The land was taken care of the way the indigenous folks wanted it to be taken care of, and it was part of their way of life. So when the Europeans came over, obviously, and conquered it, quote unquote, um, they changed kind of the landscape of the land, and we're having obviously the results that we're having now. But
Mhm.
they weren't coming into this vast wilderness that wasn't being taken care of. It was very
Oh yeah, no.
cultivated by the indigenous folks who were living in the Americas. So I just find that kind of interesting that um all of this, how all of this is kind of coming into play. And then obviously with, you know kind of these new discoveries, and people kind of addressing um issues that come with kind of indigenous folks, and things that in the technology, to your point, that there was more technology, not technology in the sense that we think, but they knew more than people are giving them credit for knowing.
Yeah, yeah. In the Amazon, um, they cultivated a special kind of soil that basically has its own microbiome and is rich and plentiful and can grow lush things. And we don't know how that was created, but it still exists there today. I think it's Terra Preta is
Hmm.
what it's called. Um, but yeah, I mean, stuff like that, right? Like they appreciated the land, they understood that the land was life, right? Like you
Exactly.
needed the land to survive.
And they were stewards of it. So there was, I guess, because I was a kid and that's what I was taught. I always thought that when the conquistadores came over, like, they were dealing with this land that was untaken care of and uncultivated and all of this, when in reality, to your point, the land was being taken care of. Native folks were stewards of the land, and were taking care of the land according to kind of what their belief system was. So they were taking care of the land. It wasn't just kind of a vast wilderness that needed to be wrangled in and dominated. It was
Yeah.
land that was being taken care of. And
It was
and
very
they had to,
spiritual.
yeah, and they had medicines, right? And there was ways that they took care of themselves, right? And I always thought, like, in my mind, because I was talking to a brother about your teeth, right? And he did say something. He's like, you have to keep in mind that people, maybe 20, even 30, even not even 30 years ago, because 30 years ago isn't really that long, but when you're talking about 50, 60, 100, 200, they didn't eat sugar like we ate, right? They didn't
No,
eat. So they
processed
might have
stuff.
not,
Yeah.
all the processed stuff, all the sugar. They did have ways to take care of their teeth. So the assumption that everybody had rotten teeth, that may have
It
not been the
doesn't
case.
show. It's not the case. It doesn't show. Their teeth back in the day, like long time ago. I mean, like you look at certain cavemen and stuff, their teeth were not like rotten. They had very big teeth compared to the teeth that we have now.
Mhm.
Of course, they were eating, a lot of different things than we were, but yeah, our teeth are way more not healthy, way
No,
more
I mean, I've got
unhealthy. Yeah.
fillings, because I always thought, well, I probably wouldn't have made it if I was born a long time ago, because my teeth, I probably would have died of some tooth infection, right? But then you think about it, they
You
weren't
wouldn't be
eating the
eating
thing.
while you're eating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not eating what you're eating now. I wouldn't be eating candy, or wouldn't have grown up eating. So I probably wouldn't have been drinking cow's milk, to be honest with you.
Mm-mm.
Probably drinking goat or something, or probably not even drinking milk at all, right?
Yeah. Depending on where you live, for sure. I mean, I didn't realize until, you know, in my more grown up life about the diversities of diets of people, even now, right? Like
Mhm.
if you look at countries like Alaska in very, very cold places like that, that's just ice and water, they're eating primarily like seal blubber and stuff like that. And I could not imagine having a diet of that.
Aren't you, so I'm obsessed with Alaska TikTok. And to your point, they have like these native folks, and they're processing the blubber, and they're taking, like the seal oil, and they eat certain
Yeah.
foods. And to your point, their their diet was not, you can't grow fruits and vegetables. You're only growing them certain times of the year. So their diet is primarily coming out of the ocean. To your point, it was like seal, And have you seen the little things that they use to cut the seal? I don't know. There's probably an official name for it. To cut the seal meat, they have this beautiful knives that they kind of use to
Hmm.
cut, and then they harvest the blubber. I'm obsessed. And then they have these like caves they do underground so they keep their food cold.
Yeah. I I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine.
But
I
to
can
your point,
imagine living on certain things. Like I'd probably be more able to live fruits, berries, nuts, things like that, green vegetables, certain little animals, things like that, deer, but I couldn't seal blubber, just the texture of that. And it's fat. I mean, just imagine getting a huge piece of fat in your mouth.
but they're healthy, right? Like if you think about it, you know.
I don't know. I mean, they're not, I don't call seeing very like, what are they called? The Inuit? Is that
Let me,
who it is that live there?
I gotta figure out what the name of the tribe is that lives in Alaska. So tribes. Let me Google it real quick from Alaska.
It's the Inuit people, right?
I want to say it's Inuit.
Inuit.
There's several. There's Inupiat, the Inuit. There's the Athabascans, and then
Hmm.
I'm tickling it and hiding. I may be butchering all these names, but there's six
Oh goodness.
native groups. Maybe it's Inupiat. Maybe that's how it's pronounced, Inupiat. But there's several groups in Alaska. And you're right, their diet is primarily like seal and porpoise, and they have to get certain permits to do all that. Um, but I think it's fascinating, right? Because you have to think people survived, thousands of years on that type of food, like hundreds of years on that type
Yeah.
of food.
Well, like, where are they getting the rest of their minerals, right? Like, we're sit here and told that we have to have all these vitamins and minerals to survive. Where are they getting all those? If that's what they're
S-
eating.
So Jordan, I don't know if you know who Jordan Peterson is. You might know.
Oh
He's
yeah, I
getting a
love
lot. He's getting
Peterson.
a, well, he's getting a lot. He's in hot water right now
Oh,
because
he's
they're
always in hot water.
no, but I
Today's
think
not a time. He's
this
always in
time
hot water. He's very controversial.
he's very controversial. So he eats a diet primarily made of meat
He,
because, and he said,
Lion's
yeah,
diet. Yeah,
yeah. So he does eat that, and so does his daughter, and it's helped them a
Michaela.
whole lot.
Yeah.
Michaela, but I find something rather interesting. So there's a Sports Illustrated had like four different cover girls. One of them was Kim Kardashian. I think one of them was Elon's mom. Was it Mae
Yeah.
Musk? Was it her? Was she on the cover? Let me
I'm not
see.
sure, but I saw the post where it was some girl in a black bathing suit, and he said that it was not attractive and
I
posted some studies with it to show that babies stare at attractive people more. And it's not just someone trying to be mean and say, no, she's not attractive because I see she's not attractive, but brought with two articles showing that babies look at people who what we would consider to be more attractive, like classically attractive, um, that babies stare at people like that more. and it had nothing to do with being an adult, and was actually just part of nature. And so that was the point that he was making,
But
that
who's
I
to say?
feel he was making with
But
that.
who's to say when that? Who cares what babies think? You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
his
Like I see, like in
I
all
see what you're
honesty,
saying, but
like
yeah, should he
they
have
can't
posted
even.
it? Like, no, definitely he knew he was going to get attacked for that. But I see the point that he's trying to make, is that to claim that, how can I say this? To claim that there's not a nature standard of what beauty is, right? If we're looking at it from the facts of nature, not from politics or community standard, right? But if we're looking at it from nature, babies find attractive people. And when you're looking at attractive, you're looking at symmetry, you're looking at health subconsciously. It's not you looking at somebody and going, oh yeah, they visually look good. But there's a certain standard with nature that can sense subconsciously what beauty is and what genes are strong, and those genes will be chosen to continue, because that's how nature works. And so what he's proving with the articles with the babies, for instance, that babies look at attractive people more. And it's not because they think, oh, this person is pretty, because they don't have that capacity to say this person is pretty. They're looking at it from a nature standpoint of what nature would consider pretty, based off of symmetry, based off the golden rule, based off of things like that, that subconsciously we don't think about in terms of what nature wants, right? Because if we look at the fact of nature in life, whatever it is, its job is to survive. It's to continue that gene going on and on and on. It has to pick out subconsciously the genes that will do that. And this is why, I don't know if you've ever heard him talk about women on birth control. Women on birth control lose the ability naturally, quote unquote, kind of paraphrased, naturally lose their ability to pick a quality partner for themselves, because the hormones have messed up their natural ability, because they've turned off their fertilization. Therefore they don't have that natural instinct gene wise to want to continue that gene line at the moment.
So let's take that argument that Peterson is saying about a turn model is named You Mean You, right? And in certain cultures, someone like her
That is beautiful. Yeah.
that who has um big breasts, like curvy girl, right? She has big
Yeah.
breasts, big hips, would be considered somebody fertile.
Right.
So if he's saying, well, if babies see that way and they understand, because if that was the case, right, then
Yeah.
if historically fertility has been viewed by a woman who has, like in indigenous cultures and in other cultures, somebody who's curvy, has big hips, that's going to be somebody who's going to be fertile. Models, not to say anything, would not be that
You're so
that
skinny. Yeah.
standard. So when he said this is not beautiful, as a matter of fact, I can see why he
Yeah.
offended a lot of women, because and a
Sure.
lot of men who find women like that attractive. I just felt, and he felt attacked, and I think rightfully so, because what he said was, first of all, really, to your point, very controversial, right? Because that's Jordan
Yeah.
Peterson is very controversial.
Which
But
I don't know if you've heard him talk about too. He's actually a very agreeable person. He hates causing confrontation. That's what he says. But he feels that there are things that need to be said. Like, he
yeah,
has a strong stance on it. So
he
I don't know. That I definitely wouldn't have posted that, just because there are people who, no matter what you say to them, are never going to understand that position that you posted. ever.
Well, that position is very like not beautiful. Period. Like, wait a
Yeah.
minute. Like, I think that you were talking of that in it wasn't in my opinion. It was like not
Yeah.
beautiful. And in reality,
It was
there is a
fact
lot of
based.
men
Yeah.
that would probably date her.
Sure.
In all
I mean,
honesty,
she's on the cover of a magazine. I mean,
of a magazine. And so for him to say that, and I've heard Jordan Peterson speak. I thought it was something that he shouldn't have said, one, but two, it it almost seems out of character for him because he tries to be agreeable, right? Outside of that, like it almost
he
seems like
tries to be
not
very
beautiful.
professional usually.
Yes,
Yeah.
but saying something, putting a picture, a man. First of all, it's a man talking about a woman saying that she's not beautiful.
Right.
Within our social standard, like within our circle of standards, for a man to say to talk bad about a woman, it's almost ungentlemanlike.
Yeah.
So it's not a polite thing to say.
Yeah. And I honestly, I don't know because I only saw the post, right? I don't know what led up to the post. I don't know why he really posted the post. Um, just my take, given the articles he also put with it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I kind of question like, why did he make that post? Because it is, like you said, a little off for him. Usually he doesn't commingle himself in with the visualization of somebody else, right? Like beauty standard.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so I did find that a little weird. I know he, stands up a lot for the government not coming in and telling you what you can say and things like that. But in terms of saying like this person is not beautiful because he didn't really elaborate too much and there was no context to really what was posted. Um, like what is the controversy over this specific thing? Why did it mean so much to him to post it?
Exactly. What you're right. And obviously I'm sure he'll address it at some point, but
I hope so because
it's
I'd
not
really want to know.
it's not a very nice thing to say. It comes off as being, especially for a man his age, like n- I could kind of say if he was a 16 or 15-year-old, it'd be like your mom needs to put you in your place, right? But here's a
Yeah.
grown man talking about a woman's looks. I mean, that's you're not being a gentleman. You're not
Yeah.
being, and this
Well,
goes back to go ahead, and I'll
I
bring up
want to
another.
know what it is about her look. Is it her weight? Is it her bathing suit that she has on? Is it the fact she's on the cover of a magazine in her bathing suit? Like, what about it is unattractive? Is what I would want to know. Are you calling her fat, or are you saying that the way this presentation is not attractive and that this is where we are? So I hope he does come out and kind of specify like what about this made her so unattractive to the
You
point
know,
where he felt he had to put his 2 cents in this cover, right?
he,
Because
he
there's thousands of covers. Why this one?
exactly. And you know what? In all honesty, he should have apologized. Let me tell you, when I was in high school, there was this guy everybody liked because he was so nice to everybody. It didn't matter if you were, you know, not conventionally attractive or conventionally attractive. He treated everybody with respect, right? And everybody liked him. And he wasn't the most attractive guy in the world, but everybody liked him because he would open the doors for everybody. It didn't matter what you look like, young, old, whatever, whatever. He would open the door for you. He was such a nice guy. Everybody had a crush on him. To me, that was kind of, for him to say not beautiful to obviously a woman. He may not have found her attractive, right? But to a woman that a lot of people found attractive, it just seemed to me ungentlemanly, like you weren't being a gentleman at that point.
Yeah.
So
And that, I mean,
that's
that
my
is
take on it.
different from them or different for them, right? Because I have personally never seen a plus size model on Sports Illustrated before.
Was Ashley Graham on there? I thought Ashley Graham was on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Who is
Let's
that?
see. She's a plus size model.
When though? When was that?
Let me see. Oh yeah, she was. Ashley Graham was on a cover of Sports Illustrated. 2016.
Okay. So is that it though?
She was the first model. I don't know if there was some since 2016, but she was the first plus size model on on the cover. She's certainly an
Okay.
advocate. Yep. Yeah, it was back in 2016. So but to your point, I wonder what triggered him to say that. That was just a horrible thing to say. It just wasn't nice. It just
Yeah.
wasn't a nice thing to say. And
Yeah.
I was,
I mean, I
I,
usually try to stick up and understand where he comes from because a lot of what he talks about does come from actual fact.
mhm.
And so yeah, that's why I'm just kind of like, where did this come from? Why this one? What's really going on that he felt he had to say this? Because there's more than just the post, right? Like everybody wants to be like, oh, he's a terrible person, that's why he said it. But like, why did he say it? He's a very facts type of thing. So like, why? What brought him to that conclusion, other than
Exactly the same.
opinion?
Exactly. But if you were,
I wouldn't have said it though. It just didn't
no,
seem like
he
it.
wouldn't have made, he wouldn't, he shouldn't have made a comment of person's look. He could have talked if he wanted to talk about it, he could have talked about it. He could have gone, Twitter might have not been the forum conversation he may have wanted to have about that, right? He could have said,
Yeah,
well, it's important for us to be healthy, quote unquote, or whatever he wanted to his whole thing. But even then, even if she didn't want to be healthy, it's really none of his business. But the fact that he singled out this one model on this one magazine and said that she wasn't beautiful, I think
yeah,
that was not a very nice thing to say.
yeah. With 140 characters, that definitely didn't do whatever he was trying to say and make a point of justice at all. So
Yeah. And he's pretty, to your point, he's a very logical man. Like, he thinks very logically and very succinct, but if he was trying to make a point, it flopped.
yeah, for sure, I
So
I totally agree with that. I do feel like a lot of his stuff a lot of times gets taken out of context, but with this one, I'm definitely gonna I need to see like what's really going on, you know?
well, in all honesty, I was surprised when I saw it. I was like, did he really
It
say that?
is
And then I
out
saw
of
the tweet.
character. Yeah,
And I said yes, and then he said, oh well, I'm going to be taking a break from social media, where, as he should. But I honestly think that he should have apologized. Like, he should have said, look, I was trying to prove a point of something else. I apologize if I offended anybody. I apologize, because he offended a large segment of the population. I mean, if you look at the majority of women, what size are they in the United States? I mean, it's not like a size, I don't even think it's a size 10, right?
yeah,
When it comes to women's sizes. So if most women are not a size 0 or a size 2 or even a size 8, then at that point, you've just offended a huge segment of the population. And even
yeah,
then,
for sure.
even if women have, like, there's women that are healthy in every aspects. And I really do like this new body positive movement. I know some people may be against it, but I really love the new body positive movement, because even women are showing their stretch marks, and they're showing that, their bellies don't get back after they have like 2 or 3 kids. And some women choose to have surgery, and some women, don't, and still have that skin. So I think it's a realistic view of what it's like to be, you know a woman, right? And that not everybody's body's perfect. And there's women on this, certainly on the Sports Illustrated cover, that have had a lot of work done,
Yeah,
to look the
yep,
way that they do. And this woman, this this lady, this model didn't have a lot. I mean, she was her authentic self. And I think that that's gonna, I don't know. I mean, this is not the first time Jordan's in hot water. I think he'll probably bounce back. He's always, in this
Yeah.
hot boiling place. But I think this was in my opinion something that I saw that was thought that was kind of out of character.
Yeah, I would agree with that because he's always controversial, but he's, again, we've kind of said this over and over, but he's very factual and strategic the way that he says things and does things. So, and he tries to, be honest. And that's why I don't think he'll come out and make an apology, because if you're apologizing for something that you knew that you had malintent doing. And I don't think he had malintent here.
Hmm.
I don't think he thought about maybe the repercussion it was going to have, um, which is weird because he knows the repercussion a lot of his stuff has had previously. But it is a little out of character, I feel, for him,
For
which is a
sure.
shame. Which is a shame because it's really hard to get some varieties of people to really listen to him because they think he's just some MAGA conservative, even though he doesn't live here, he's Canadian, right? But they feel he falls into that very conservative side and that all the Republicans like him. And that's just not the case. He is actually very against what the Republican and stuff try to do as well.
Hmm.
So, they try to say that white supremacists try to claim that the stuff that Jordan Peterson talks about proves their story, but it really doesn't. He really doesn't support white supremacy at all, or anybody being violent to anybody. He just doesn't feel that laws should be forced upon people in terms of being told what to speak, right?
Or how to say like language. Yeah, but they don't. I don't think they have the same First Amendment rights that we do in Canada. I don't
No,
think they do. They have it
they don't.
different. What do you think about Elon Musk coming out saying he's Republican now?
I think that's really sad. I think we're seeing that a lot right now, especially, I would say, with people with money. Um, the Democratic Party, I feel, is pushing people away from it with a lot of the things that they're trying to force onto people. Um, forced vaccines, and then you got to admit that this administration is not really batting 1,000. I mean, nothing's really been done at all. Nothing's really been done. Um, so yeah, I mean, I feel like the Democratic Party is kind of pushing a lot of the people who are in the middle away, and the only other choice there is Republican. I feel that we need at least to acknowledge a party now of someone in the middle, um, because most Americans don't support all one thing or all the other thing. Most people are a mix of things. There are quite a few people who don't feel like abortion should be illegal, but also feel that you should not get 10 abortions a year. It should not be misused, right? Because it can and has been misused. Um, there are people who support people being able to own guns, but also think it should be a lot harder for someone with a mental incapacity to own a gun. People who are on psychiatric medications, for instance, should not be allowed to buy a gun. There is nothing that keeps a person who are on psychiatric medication from being able to purchase a gun. If you don't have a criminal background, you can essentially purchase a gun. So I've known quite a few people who are on mental medications who I would feel, as knowing them, should
Hmm.
not own a weapon.
Hmm.
Um, and as someone who I would call alt middle, I
Hmm.
don't feel that we have a party to run to right now
Hmm.
because we don't support what the Democrats are doing and we don't support what the Republicans are doing. And there's nobody in the middle to represent the people who are in the middle. And we have very much so like a taxation without representation going on because we're being told you have to choose this side or you have to choose this side. There's nothing else to choose because we all know that the person who's going to run independent isn't going to make the funds, the donations to make it because you've got these super PACs that put into these two parties. and that's it. And I don't know
Mm,
if you just heard about, I think it was the Supreme Court just uh, pushed down Ted Cruz's bill or something, and Ted Cruz wants to claim it was his bill. I don't know whose bill it really was, but that basically mega PAC contributions are freedom of speech,
mhm,
and that there is not going to be a $250,000 cap now,
mhm.
and they can
Yeah,
pay
I heard
however
that.
much they want to these parties, and that is just
Private donors,
asinine.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
asinine. That is crazy to sit there and say that that's a First Amendment right when you're basically skewing the tables for the only people who can run and in your favor because you're paying them all this money, and the normal everyday person can't pay them all that money, you know?
So
And
you'd
so
have to so to your point, if you're not affiliated with either party, right?
what do
You're
you
not
do?
gonna how are you going to raise the funds unless you have a big donor supporting you in order to run against these folks? So it's gonna
Yeah,
be more difficult to have um grassroots politician come up out of nothing. Like if they decided, hey, I'm going to run under this third party, it's going to be much more difficult because they're not necessarily going to have the funds um, to run,
to compete. Yeah,
to compete, right? To compete, to put to put the social media ads, to put the ads in commercials, to put a Super Bowl. I mean, technically, if you got enough funds, you could put an ad in the Super Bowl, right? Like
yeah,
all of these things, you're not going to have somebody that's going to come in and really decide to, they may not have the money to run against these folks. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, you go to early voting right now, and they give you this, or you go and they're like, well, what do you want to vote? Do you want to vote Democrat or do you want to vote Republican? Well, fuck, I don't really want to vote for either, but that's my only two choices.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah,
You're
that's it.
right.
That's all that's on the ballot is Republican or Democrat, and that's it. And then
Yeah.
if you say Democrat, guess what? The ballot that you're getting, that's all it's going to have on it
Mhm.
is Democrats. And if you
Mhm.
want Republican, the ballot that you get is going to only have Republicans on it. And those are your choices.
Yeah,
And
you could
like,
just
that I don't know. Like, I'm so over the two-party system. I'm over um them being so extremist because both sides are incredibly extremist right now. Incredibly extremist.
yeah, we're definitely living in some interesting times when it comes to what's going on. It's just these changes are so drastic and so dramatic that you're like, "Oh my, like how did we get here?" And it's interesting because I am finding that when I go to my social media feeds that there's people that are actually leaving the country. I don't know what the statistics are on that.
Girl, yes, a lot.
I'm sure that there's that now with, and I think it's interesting right now. Interesting. We're living in just interesting because you know how the CEO of Airbnb was like, "Look, you can work from wherever you want. It
Yep.
doesn't matter to us." It's interesting to me because I really do think that we're in 10 years, he said, I think it was 10 years, the journalist said that they felt that we're going to be in almost a situation where we're global. Like, technically,
Yeah,
if you want the best and the brightest folks, I think it was a CEO from Airbnb that said that
it was.
if you want
Yeah.
the best and the brightest folks, you can go all over the globe to get them.
Yep.
Like you are not tied to talent here in the United States, which is interesting because if that's going to be the case, there's going to be people here in the United States that are going to move to Mexico, that are going to move to Canada, that are going to move to all these different parts of the world where the cost of living is lower. And there's a
Yep.
show, I don't know on what channel it is, and I don't know if it's a BBC show, where they have all these like people that are going to retire from England and they go to different countries and they determine where they're going to retire. And I think that we may come to a time pretty sooner than later in the United States where people are going to be shopping around all over the world where they're going to retire. They're going to look at
Yeah.
medical care, they're going to look at housing, they're going to look at how, the environment is, access to internet and all of these things, infrastructure,
Yep.
and I think it's going to happen.
There's quite a few people that have come up in my feed that have moved to Germany. Quite a
It's
few, and they love it. They love it so far. They
it's
love
going
being
to
able to go just put their card, their medical card up when they get to go to medical appointments, and they are not asked for any money because
mhm.
it's completely free. And, just stuff like that. And if we had the means, although there's a lot of stuff in those countries too, that like mandatory vaccines and stuff that just doesn't suit me because I don't feel there's a one size fits all solution for every person
No.
at all.
No. But I think with retirement and inflation the way it is, for sure, I really do think that it's going to get to a point where people are going to be. But what's interesting now, if you think about it, now if you think about it ahead, if all these folks are going to be moving to all the parts of your world, your talent's going to be moving to Mexico, to South America, to all these other countries, the economy of those countries is going to change
Yeah.
and the dynamics is going to change. So it's almost like there's going to be a part of it that may be gentrified and people are going to be living off of that and prices are going to go up in the locals. So it's this
Well,
expanding
Hawaii is
economy.
like that.
Hawaii's like that. Puerto Rico's like that right now. Puerto Rico is like people aren't being able, some folks are going to not being able to afford housing, but Hawaii is what they're saying Puerto Rico is going to turn into, if not already, with locals not having the means to live in where they're originally from. Like some of the native Hawaiians, it's a long waiting list to get into like not public housing, but they have like a system. I guess they get housing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's long and it's hard to get on that
Ours is
list.
too. Ours is too here. It's like 8 to 10 years.
What to get housing?
It
Is it
was when when I was really, really struggling when I was younger and I was a young mom. It was like an 8 to 10 year waiting list to get on Section 8. I
eight
never
to
got on it. I never got on it. But yeah, the waiting list was that long when I had talked to them about trying to get on it.
eight
I
to
was like,
ten
that's
years?
pointless. That's pointless. I'm going to be fucking dead and homeless by then. That's not helpful to anybody.
I did not know it was that insane. Had no
Yeah,
idea.
it's crazy.
It
But yeah, I
is.
mean, you look at those houses in Hawaii, and I mean, you look at some of the shacks, and they're like $1 million for a
Who
shack.
who can afford that?
Well, I mean, you've got your people that are moving from the United, or Hawaii is the United States, but from the mainland, I guess, to over there who have money and they're just going to retire there or work from there, you know?
And be able to afford that because these folks aren't affording it. And
Yeah.
it is very unfortunate because what are you gonna do? You're from there, right? But yet you can't afford any housing.
And where do you go, right? Like, it's an island. It's not, people are so goofy. I went to vote the other day. It was like the runoff for Dayton County.
Hmm.
And there was a Republican lieutenant commissioner, something like that, there who he was trying to convince me why I should vote for him
Hmm.
as a as a Republican. And so we were literally talking for quite a while about his stance on stuff, and it's like this is just not. There's just no talking to them about stuff. I was telling him my concerns on where I feel like there's a lot of people in the middle who aren't being represented right now, and talking to him about other countries and like other countries that are on the same GDP level as us,
Hmm.
right? That play on the same playing field, because you can't compare apples to oranges. You need to compare our country to countries that are on the same GDP and
Hmm.
playing field as us, right? But he's like trying to bring up countries like healthcare, for instance. look at these places that have socialized healthcare, like Mexico and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, sir, Mexico is not the same as us. I'm talking about countries like Germany and like, places comparable. And it's just constant of talking about or trying to talk about things that just aren't comparable.
And you
So,
know what's interesting enough is that a lot of Americans are moving to Mexico, right, to live over there because they said it's better, um, cost of living wise. And I think the president of Mexico is doing a lot for the country.
okay.
Yeah, right now in terms of opening businesses and resources that did not happen before. So I really do think that South America is evolving. Um, from that standpoint, right? But you're right. He wasn't trying to compare, to your point, same GDP, right? He was looking at other aspects. But even then, I'm sure that there's nothing like, even if you have like a minor cut, going and not your healthcare costs so much, like 100, like if you get cut and you need stitches, there's people that are truly thinking about not going you know, to your clinic down the street because that's $130 or whatever. Like, that's probably on the low end, right? Um,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean, especially depending on what it is and where you go. I mean, if it's
Yeah,
like a little Care Now clinic, they still charge quite a bit.
for sure. It's a little like a care now or a clinic, and people are thinking twice. Like, okay, I got cut. Do I really need stitches? How can I stitch it at home? Like, am I really going to go and spend X amount of money because things are so expensive now? And
Yeah,
so,
people rather die than go to the hospital.
for sure, for sure. And it's unfortunate because there's a sickness can bankrupt you, really.
Yeah,
It can drain your savings, it can drain everything that you have if you get sick. And that's
yeah.
truly sad. Truly
Well,
sad.
most Americans cannot afford to have a terminal illness or
No.
any kind of illness, really. But I mean, anything that's going to be more than a one visit type of thing, most Americans cannot. If it's going to be something that puts them in the hospital, if it's going to be something that has to do with long term care, um, cancer surgery, something like that. It's sad that we have to have a Fund Me page for people to be able to, pay for surgeries or have surgeries because they just, our healthcare is tied to jobs right now. Jobs don't want to necessarily give benefits. So a lot of jobs don't want to give you the hours to give you benefits. And it's just, it's a ridiculous situation that we have right now and really disconnected for a lot of these politicians to just be like, well, if you just got a really good job that paid you insurance,
But if
like, okay,
but even like the kids who go to the Ronald McDonald's house, to your point, like, well, in that case they pay for that. But to your point, it's difficult, if a parent needs to be there for a child and not be able to work and be able to attend to
yeah,
them. And it's just so expensive. It's so expensive. And when you have an illness like that, in some cases you may not even be able to work, or even a disability, right? I think there's a disability advocate that I follow on TikTok, and she talks about how the importance of disability is because we automatically assume that we're not going to be disabled. And like,
we
you don't
have
know
to.
the, yeah, well,
It, we have to just put it out of sight, out of mind, because
yeah,
we all
but
know that if that happened, it would crush us.
because she made up a point that she said disability rights is everybody's rights, and she's 100% right. You can get into an
Yeah,
accident and no longer have the use of your legs. So it's to your point, we don't like to think about that, but it could happen to anybody. So really, I think it's very important, especially to have, you know a system of healthcare that's provided like they do in Canada, like they do in Australia and other places. I'm not sure if I think Australia does have socialized medicine or system like that.
I think so
Um
too.
that has that to your point, so people can still have a certain quality of life while they're going through their illnesses.
I'm pretty sure we are the only country on that playing field that does not have socialized healthcare. And I want to think that there are even some other like countries that are like a lower GDP than us that actually still do offer um, socialized healthcare for all to their people. And that's
Well,
these instances that the Republicans try to pull up on. Look how bad their country is doing. But you can't say that to the ones that are on the same playing field as us. You just can't say, look how bad they're doing, because they're not. Their people are healthy and happy. Um, what I find crazy, and I just thought about this today, was it's illegal to give your child poison, right? It's illegal. You would kill your child.
mhm,
But it's allowed to be in all of our kids' food products,
mhm.
right? Like all the stuff that's in our kids' food products. That's okay. Carcinogenic items, all of these dyes, the BHT, stuff like that, that's okay to be in our food that literally is poisoning our kids. So, it's just because that's what's causing a lot of the healthcare too, right? Is the shit that's in our food. It's a huge system. If we change our healthcare system, we would, in order to do that, we would want to change our food system, because if not, we are going to be paying a lot of money for healthcare, because people are unhealthy. And
So
if you
to your
look at why, it's the food.
so to your point, like there is a lot of food that you can buy here in the United States, but you can't buy in, for example, Europe, or you can buy in France, right?
Yeah. Well, all of our food has stuff in it that you're like, why is that even in there? Right? Like, for instance, let's look at just even some simple as broth. There is a ton of stuff in those generic broths that you buy, like chicken broth, beef broth, um, on the shelf. There's a ton of stuff in it. It's not just like bone juice cartilage. It literally has preservatives in it. And it's got yeast powder in it, and it's got all this stuff. Um, I was looking at cereal the other day because my son's been wanting cereal, but I hate our cereal because it's got so much terrible things in it. It's got glyphosate. It's got what is the other one that's in there? But it's literally in every cereal, every single one. You've got yellow dye, blue Ford, what is it, like Blue Lake 4, yellow 5, red 40, all that stuff. And it's in every single box of cereal. I even picked up a chocolate. It was like some kind of chocolate cereal. And I was like, okay, this shouldn't have any dyes in it. It had literally every single dye in it. And it was just chocolate. And so it's frustrating when you really look at the stuff that's in there. When you look at the stuff that's in the food that they're making for the kids to eat primarily, it's not adults eating a lot of these things, it's the kids. Um, yeah, I mean, if you want to change the healthcare system, you're going to have to change the food system, and if you do that, you're really hurting people's pockets because they've learned how to make shit very cheap by using a lot of junk.
To do the for food, you're right. You're right in that aspect of it. Of there was this doctor. I went to this symposium. It was part of my legal education um training, but they had a symposium on health and eating healthy, and they had a yoga instructor, and they taught you how to eat with the seasons, right? And they did not eat any processed food. They said you have to eat with the seasons, like whatever vegetable is in
Mhm.
season, that's what you should eat. And one of the doctors said, like, certain things need to be eaten in moderation. For example, she said sweetener. Okay, yeah, you can have sweetener, right? but moderation is 2 packets of sweetener a day, without it having, she
Right.
felt, without that particular substance having an impact, right? She said, if you want to eat sweetener, you can, because she was big on diets. If you want, you can, but in moderation. Moderation is 2. People put 4 packets of sweetener, or like the amount of sweetener in drinks, right? If she said
Hmm.
moderation is 2 packets, some of those don't have 2 packets of sweetener in their drink. And to your point, I remember when you used to train me, that was one thing that you would bring up, like, your body does not know how to process some of these things. It
Yeah.
wasn't designed to process some of these things. It was designed to process, strawberries, right? It was designed to process, to process fruits,
Organic
vegetables,
items. Yeah.
organic items. It wasn't designed to produce and that really kind of like stuck with me. And then when I went to that symposium and I heard all these people, it kind of reinforced what you had told me. That's like, look, this is what you have to eat. And this lady, she treated a lot of people who had like acne and all of these like diseases. She was a doctor, and she was, I don't know if she was one of those doctors that kind of looks at everything not homeopathic doctor, but she was a medical doctor, but she also dealt with non-traditional ways of treating illnesses. And
Yeah,
that
I
was one of
forget
the
what those
things.
doctors are called. They do like traditional, but they also do kind of like a holistic approach.
Holistic, yeah. And that's what she did. She was a regular doctor, but she also did like holistic, and she just looked at what you ate. And and then the other, which I thought was very interesting, because I was like, all these, at that point, it was I was like, all these millennials were doing their own businesses on teaching people how to eat. Like, that was basically how they taught people how to eat. And I always thought that was really fascinating, because my parents certainly did not have any. I think they had education, but not formal education to the point where they even knew, okay, you need to have vegetables. Like, we just ate whatever, eat whatever. It
Yeah,
had
that's
nothing
how
to
it was growing up too.
it had nothing to do with, okay, now you have to have this much vegetables, this much protein, this much. Nothing was structured with how we ate. So it's funny, because you take those habits, especially I do. I take those habits into adulthood, right? And really, to your point, it's so important that we eat so healthier, just because that's how our body processes things, and our body reacts to this type of food in different ways. And sometimes it's not the
Yeah.
best ways, which is why um, Jordan Peterson's daughter went to kind of like an all meat diet, and it has to be
Yeah.
organic, and they can't add something to it. And it had helped her body. But maybe it's the fact that she went to an organic meat diet because she's so allergic to everything else.
Yeah. Well, and that's going to work for some people, right? And other diets are going to work for other people. There are blood type diets where you can just look and see what blood type you have, and you can look up what foods that blood type typically is
Mhm,
least, um, basically least inflammatory to.
mhm,
Um, because, like, maybe pecans aren't good for you, but hazelnuts are,
mhm,
right? Or maybe cashews are good for you and almonds aren't.
mhm,
Um, and that's going to be different for everybody, right? I think it has a lot to do with like genetic
mhm,
coding, right? Of where our ancestors essentially were and what they were eating and how their
mhm,
diets were, because that's what our specific genes were made to live in.
mhm,
So that's the nutrients that we need, right? Just like we were talking about the seal blubber and stuff earlier.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. So you're right, but I mean, I get. I didn't know that there was a diet where they just take your blood type.
So you actually, if you know what blood type you are, you can actually look online and look up what diet is best for that blood type.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. But I think, to your point, I think it's a lot of hit or miss, right? Like, how does your body process dairy? How does your body process almond milk? Like, I'm like, I think, well, I'm almost positive I'm lactose intolerant, so dairy doesn't go well with me. But then I tried almond milk, and almond milk didn't do any good. Like, it was just but almond milk has
What
a lot of,
almond milk?
yeah,
Which
it
almond milk?
was like a silk, like the silk, like your. Was
Silk
it?
is it's oil. It's not even really almond milk.
Mm-hmm.
It's like sunflower
Mm-hmm.
lecithin. It's not really almonds. The Silk is not a very good brand. You need to get one that is. You can actually make your own at home. I make my own cashew milk.
Mm-hmm.
It's super easy. You just take like a handful of nuts and then add whatever kind of sweetener you want. Like I'll add dates. So I'll put
Mm-hmm.
like cashews, dates, and then you just fill the blender thing up with water and blend it until it's smooth and then dump it through like a really fine strainer,
Mm-hmm.
or a cheese rag or whatever. And you've got yourself your nut milk right there. It's got 3 items in it and you're done. Or two, if you don't want a sweetener, you just put the nuts in the water and that's
Oh
it.
wow!
Yeah.
And you put it
Because
in coffee and everything?
yeah, I put it in everything. I use it to bake with. If I want almond milk, I'll make it the same way. You can make any kind of milk you want. Same thing with like peanut butter. I make my peanut butter here at the house because I can get a huge container of peanuts at Costco for $7 and make 5 or 6 big containers of peanut butter with it. And all it has in it is peanuts and a little bit of avocado oil that I add. And that's it. If I want it sweet, I'll add honey, and there's nothing else in it.
Oh wow! I think that's
Yeah,
the way to do it. Do you get raw cashews?
yeah, yeah. I'll just buy a big container at Costco of cashews, like roasted cashews, nothing on it, just like salt. That's it. Um, but yeah, I mean, most of like Silk and Oatly and a lot of those ones that you find in the cold section that are alternatives are literally just sunflower oil and sunflower lecithin. It's not even really that nut. A good one to get is Elmhurst, I think it's called. Elmhurst is really good. It's literally whatever item you're trying to get, so almond or cashew or oats, um, water, and that's pretty much it. So Elmhurst is really good, and then Malk. It's Malk, and they
I
have it
tried
in
milk.
Love Malk. It's fantastic. It's really good.
I tried milk, and you're right. It was good, because I'm gonna be honest with you, just like TMI, but the Silk and the soy milk, they were like running through me. It's like I was drinking them and I need to go to the bathroom. I'm like, what's going on here? This was supposed to be good for me, right? And
Oil.
milk didn't
Yeah.
milk. It was the oil. Milk did not do that for me. So I was like looking for milks that, although milk is expensive. I mean, it's like a little
It is.
deal.
Yeah.
So
It
it
is
was
like
like a little,
5.99.
yeah, 5.99. I'm like, it's a little bit more expensive. So
Yeah.
now
It's
that you
only
brought up
what, like
just
three
buying
cups.
cashew, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you're right. It was so expensive. So now with the whole, with what you told me, just get cashews and then add dates. I think that's the
Or
way to go.
almonds. If you
Or
want
almonds.
almond milk, you can do it with almonds. If you want cashew milk, if you want oat milk, you do the same with the oats. If you
Hmm.
want oat milk, you'll just put the oats in there with whatever sweetener you want, and then um, the water, and then you'll just run it through like one of the cheese bags. That way, because it's such fine after you blend it, it's so fine, right? So sometimes those strainers aren't that great. Um, I just use a very, very fine like sifter,
Hmm.
like for sifting stuff. Um, but yeah, just
I'm gonna
make it
check
home
that out.
super easy. Takes a couple minutes, and it only takes like a handful of nuts to make you like a pretty good glass jar. I usually have like a glass jar that looks like an old fashioned milk jar.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean that'll, you know, I think it's like 4 cups or something.
I'm gonna start making it now that you brought
It
it up,
tastes so
because
much better.
does it really?
Yeah,
And I wonder if I could add honey as a sweetener. I'm gonna try to do it. I'm gonna try to do the oat milk, and I'm gonna try to do almond milk. Where do you get this cheesecloth? Does
you can buy it
Walmart
on
sell it?
Amazon. You can buy it
Amazon.
on Amazon. Yeah,
All right, I'm gonna put it on a
I'm
little
sure
Google.
Walmart has it, but it's probably just easier to buy it on Amazon.
I'll probably get it ordered. You're right. That way, I don't even have to make a trip to Walmart. Oh, show for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the peanut butter too, and the cashew butter. I mean, it tastes so good. Like, you see a jar of cashew butter is incredibly expensive when you can just buy a huge bag of cashews. And
Mhm.
you're gonna have to put some oil in the cashews because cashews are kind of dry. So what I typically put in there is avocado oil.
Mhm.
So if you notice at the store, usually the oil that's added into your nut butters is canola oil or palm oil, or like sunflower oil is usually
Mhm.
mixed into your nut butter, whatever you're getting, whether it's almond or cashew or whatever. And
Mhm.
if you're getting one that does not have those in there, you're going to pay like $13 a jar for that nut butter, which is stupid. You can just buy a huge container of nuts and make your own nut butter at the house in your food processor.
I'm gonna start doing that because you're right. Like it's expensive, and right now with everything going up, I mean, heck, that's cost cutting mode. Almond milk, don't even have to make your own. Cashew milk, oat milk, make your own,
Yeah,
and you have to
because that
worry about
shit's so
that.
expensive, and what you're really paying for is water and a handful of nuts. That's what you're paying for.
That's true. That's true. And that oil that just runs through me. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, it's horrible. I was trying to figure out what's going on with me. I was all like, I'm drinking milk. I'm drinking the milk. I'm not drinking milk. I'm drinking the nut
but
milk, and
yeah,
it's
the
like
healthy stuff.
the healthy stuff. Well, the healthy stuff wasn't quite as healthy now that you're telling me all of this because I had no idea.
Yeah, well, and like coffee creamer is literally just vegetable oil.
Ooh,
That's all it is. If you look at the back, it's literally just vegetable oil.
mm, that's not good. Not good. And I wasn't trying. I was putting the malt in my coffee. That's what I was using it for. Although I stopped getting coffee, I'm stopping drinking coffee. I'm gonna stop because it's giving me heartburn. Everything's
Mm.
getting so sensitive. I think I'm getting old. Tomatoes give me heartburn. Coffee gives me heartburn. It's like I can't eat anything. Hot sauce gives me heartburn. Everything. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm falling apart. It's all that it's all that indulgence in my youth. It's all the burgers and fries that I ate.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, I notice sometimes depending on what I eat, if I don't have something midday, I'll start to get heartburn because usually I'll just have like black coffee in the morning. I usually drink bulletproof coffee, just
Hmm.
black, um, for breakfast. And then when I say breakfast, that's like the first thing after I wake up besides water is that. And then I'll have 3 scrambled eggs for breakfast. And that's pretty much what I have until late lunch, which would be like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And then I'll have dinner 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there.
Mm. Look at you taking care of myself. I need to get into my whole self-care mode because lately it has not been the case. And every week I start anew. I'm like one of those people like, yeah, I'm going to start anew this week. And then I just get busy and I'm like, okay, great. Didn't have time to do this. I mean, really that takes a lot of planning or you know what you're going
Yeah.
to eat.
Yeah. Man, I love Costco. Ever since I got a Costco membership like this year, I love Costco. I buy, I think it's like 7 or 8 pounds of raw chicken breast.
Hmm.
Um, it's like $27, $30. It's kind of expensive, but it's better than the prices at the store.
Hmm.
Um, because you're buying a smaller pack, and so you're buying like 6, 7 pounds. Um, 5 pound package of ground beef is like $25 at
Hmm.
Costco for 5 pounds. I think it's 5 pounds.
Hmm.
It's like 5 or 6. And then what else? Oh, their fruits. The fruits at Costco are way more fresh than they are at like Walmart and shit.
Oh, wow.
Way more.
Well, there's not a Costco near me. If there was a Costco near me, I think I'd
But you
give it
got
a
a Sam's,
chance.
right?
Yeah, I got a Sam's.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Similar? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd imagine price wise it's gonna be similar and they're gonna handle them a lot like Costco.
Yeah. So I'm sure I can get like those are staple items like nuts and things like that,
Yeah,
so
the
I'm
big
sure I can get
containers
like
and nuts.
yeah.
I get those
So
there. The containers of strawberries come in like 2 pounds automatically, I
uh-huh.
think, 2 or 3
Mhm.
pounds. Um, Yeah, it definitely helps to buy bulk.
For sure. I think I'm gonna start doing that. Totally like buy bulk and try to make my own milk. So now I'm like motivated. So next time we talk, Michelle, it's gonna be you're gonna see a new me. I'm gonna be making my own milk and making my own peanut butter and eating
You
oatmeal
should.
every
It tastes
morning.
so much better. It tastes so much better.
I
And it does
bet.
not take that long. It doesn't take that long at all.
Does it take that long to make? For
Mm-mm.
sure. Because now it's a cost cutting. Everything's getting so expensive. So if I can make my own nut milk and know exactly what's in it, handful of dates, know exactly what's in it, then hey, there's nothing stopping me.
Mm-mm. I make a lot of our stuff. Like the chocolate chip muffins, blueberry muffins. My kids love muffins. And I'll just make that at home. And I'll make, 12 chocolate chip and 12 blueberry of the like giant muffins.
And then you have them at
So
home.
much cheaper. Yeah, it's cheaper. They taste so much better. I know what's in them. It literally just has real ingredients in it.
Mm.
Um, not vegetable oil, but like avocado oil. If you're I would definitely stay away from like the vegetable oils and stuff if you're looking for a good oil. Olive oil is okay, but avocado oil is definitely a better choice.
Hmm. I gotta look. I've never tried avocado oil. I've always have like I always go to buy the, but now I'm going to. I go get the when I get the opportunity because I love Trader Joe's. There's no Trader Joe's near, but
Oh
anytime
yeah,
I there's no
Louisville.
Trader. Well, Louisville doesn't have a Trader Joe's, does it?
Yeah,
I
the
didn't know
girl
they
that
did.
works for us goes to Trader Joe's all the time in Louisville. She says,
Oh wow, I didn't know that there was one in Louisville.
"Yeah, let me see.
Oh no, because if
Jade's
I knew
not
that
too far from her house."
Trader Joe's Louisville, now I'm like googling it because I went to the one in South Lake. Oh no, there's South Lake is the one I went. There's not one in Louisville. There's one at Plano, South Lake.
Oh, okay, South Lake. South
I
Lake.
went to the one in South Lake the other day.
Oh, okay, I thought she said there was one not too far from her house. And she lives in Louisville.
Mm, oh no. I went to the one in South Lake last
Mm.
time and I should have gone. I love going, but when I have the opportunity to go, I buy like olive oil and certain seasonings that they have. But that's few and far between. I would say maybe like once or twice a year, if that, if I'm ever in that side of town. But
You can get the pretty good avocado oil at Walmart or Target.
I think I should go. Yeah, probably will go to Walmart and Target and get it and try it out because I've never tried the avocado oil out. But to your point, if I'm going to be making my own peanut butter and I'm going to be making my own almond milk, that's something definitely to do for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I use the almond milk for everything. I mean, not almond milk, avocado oil for everything.
Even like frying an egg, things like that. Hmm.
Well, I
I,
don't actually use any oil to fry my egg because I have like a copper pan, so it doesn't
uh-huh.
stick. Well, it sticks, but not doesn't stick.
Yeah.
Um, but anything I'm cooking, if it
Hmm.
requires oil, I use the oil, the
Mm.
avocado oil. Anything.
So even like baked goods and everything.
I
Smart.
don't use any other kind of oil ever for anything. Only the
Hmm.
avocado.
So definitely something to look at. Avocado oil. So any brand in particular?
I'll have to look at the one that we have in there right now. There is one that's like a big green glass bottle with a white and black label on it. I can't think of the name of it right now. Theirs is pretty good. I think I get that one from Walmart sometimes. What is the one? The one I have right now is like a green plastic bottle and it's got like a orange sticker on it. I would have to look at what brands they are. I can't think of the names. I think one is called Primal.
Primal?
I think the one with the glass bottle is Primal. Um, the one I have in there right now, I can't think of it. But I mean, it's pretty. If you get it at Walmart, it's pretty good price.
So I'll definitely look into that for sure. For sure, for sure. Anyway, so Michelle, I think it's about that time.
All right.
It's already 12:30. Oh my goodness, we went over. Oh, so when is the